Navigating today's real estate market can be tricky. Want to buy or sell a house, finance or insure a house, or stuck with a house and don't know what to do? Florida Talk Real Estate has been your local one-stop real estate shop since 2012. Get the advice you need from your local real estate pros. Here are your hosts, Jim DePola and Johnny C. live on Real Radio.
Yeah, that's right. We are live on a Saturday. It is it's the last day of August, 31st. My goodness. September is upon us already. Great to have you with us on a Saturday. 2 hours of infotainment is what we're offering you up. And it's great to know you're there to absorb it all. 92.1, 101.7, I see you out there. Thanks for being there on the old terrestrial radio. Maybe you are worldwide with your free download, your iHeartRadio app. If you're hearing that for the first time, that's right. It's a free download. And you can listen to Real Radio or all your favorite iHeart stations worldwide. Most importantly, Florida Talk Real Estate on a Saturday. Let's be honest. Of course, we're live streaming as well. Find us on Facebook and YouTube, Florida Talk Real Estate on Facebook, Florida Talk Real Estate LLC on YouTube, home of a ton of informational chunk videos, plus the live stream every Saturday. Good morning to those that are joining out the gates. 877-927-6969. That's toll free. You want to join the conversation? Got questions, comments, concerns in the world of real estate? Dial it up. We got plenty of time for just that and so much more. The first voice you'll hear if you do dial is the melodious tones of our producer extraordinaire, Jimothy, my brother from another mother, off a weekend excursion of roller coastering.
Yeah,
it's good to hear. Good to hear you had a great time, my friend.
Loop loops. Yes, I had a great time. Thank you very much, and good morning, John.
Good
Mike,
morning,
Jim. Always a pleasure to be with you guys.
It truly is, absolutely. Let's get that starting lineup. I'm your boy Johnny C, your air traffic control. Always nice to say good morning to the mortgage guy from the mortgage firm, my friend and yours. There's Mike Rauch.
Good morning.
What's up, buddy?
Good morning. I got stuck there for a second. I don't know what I should have prepared. At least my opening salvo.
Do you do that? So when I'm setting it up, are you like, what am I going to say?
I probably should, but I guess at this
greetings
point,
and salutations.
I guess at this point I don't. I wing it, right? Can you tell? It's just spontaneous reaction in the moment.
Yeah, that's interesting. That's interesting. Some people, right. And you can tell, some people do not listen well, and they only wait for their turn to talk.
Okay.
And others actually like attentively listen, and then when it's their turn to talk, they're all.
That's exactly right. I think that's what it is. I was actually listening, and I listened to Jimothy,
right?
And he said, "What you said, loop de loop," and that like had my brain spinning for a second. I was like, "Is there something funny I can say about a loop de loop?" And then it was my turn.
So when I hear loop de loop, I hear this is what I think.
Yeah,
I want a hula hoop.
Ah, okay. Do
you know what that's from? It's ridiculous.
No.
Me, I want a hula hoop.
Is that the Hudsucker proxy? That's where it was invented.
No, that's awesome. Really? No, that's what a line from right? Alvin. Yes, Alvin and the Chipmunks.
Like
that's like the Christmas
their
holiday, right?
Yeah.
It's like the number one selling. It's like all time Christmas song.
I got the song in my head right now, but I can't pull that line.
Me, I want a hula hoop. Yeah, that's stupid.
No chipmunks over there on the board.
Oh, he's looking for it. I promise.
Yeah. I don't know if we do or not.
Really?
Yeah.
That's colossally disappointing if that's not in the system.
Well, that and I couldn't play it if I wanted to anyway. We podcast a show and we can't play copyrighted music anymore.
Well, there it is. So there's a little behind the scenes.
Mm-hmm.
How you doing?
It might be fair use at this point.
Could be.
I guess that's possible.
Gosh, because after so many years, your trademark, your patents, all that stuff goes away, right?
Yeah, and it's just like a cultural, icon.
Widely,
right?
It's everybody gets to use it,
especially Christmas stuff.
Yeah, like Jimmy D gets to use
music.
If he wants to. 12 plus years now. I've told you he runs the top producing Keller Williams team, Keller Williams Innovations. Find the Florida Home Pros team. Jim DePola, Jimmy D. How you doing,
Johnny? I think that you were talking about me when you were saying that some people they don't listen to anything that's happening, and then
I was not. But if you took it personal,
then it's real. Then it's real, right?
You took it personal.
Well, I wanted to defend myself, so I'm defending myself against myself. But it's because I'm trying to do all this other stuff at the same time, and I know that you guys are doing the right thing as we're going along. So,
yeah, no. But if you work in radio long enough, you come across it plenty, and you're like, oh, okay, you're one of those.
And we've got to say Happy Labor Day.
Almost, huh?
Yeah. I count. It's Labor Day weekend, so
it
might as well
truly
count it. Yep.
Is Labor Day actually Monday, or was it Friday and we're celebrating it Monday? Maybe.
I'm pretty sure it's Monday.
Okay.
September 1st.
No, first Monday.
No,
of September.
maybe it's Sunday. I think it's Sunday.
First Monday of September. I believe.
Oh, it's the first Monday.
I believe so. Yes.
It's one of those rotating holidays.
That
Yep,
kind of makes
yep,
sense
it's on a
because
different
that
day.
way it's always got a 3-day weekend and
Mhm.
it's Labor Day.
Gotcha.
Right,
I figured
that's
they
probably
just
why
do
they
it,
did
just
it.
do it to do it,
Yeah.
you know? But yeah, happy Labor Day. Don't drink and drive. Have fun.
Well, we
And
should
be
come up
careful
with
with all
some of
your,
our own. We should come up with some of our own national holidays.
That sounds great.
Right?
Yeah.
Anybody got any ideas for national holidays that we could do? Give us a call.
Yeah, it's like Seinfeld, right? With the
Oh,
geez,
yeah,
Why,
with
why,
the-
why can't I think of it?
Festivus?
Yeah, Festivus. Thank you.
Festivus.
Is that where you're
Thank
going?
you. Yes,
Yes.
100%.
I thought you were going with the
made-up-
Puerto
made-up-
Rican flag thing.
No, just a made up holiday, Festivus.
Yeah. I
For the
like the
rest of
feats
us.
of strength.
Yeah.
in Festivus.
Yeah, the pizza street.
The airing of grievances.
Yep.
That's good stuff right there.
I've been revisiting that show recently, and it's amazing how it still stands up today.
Still holds up.
Other than the technology, because like they don't have cell phones, they don't have anything
Yeah.
like that. So like you lose all that. Like they looking for a pay phone. It's
Yeah.
like, what's a pay phone?
Jerry's still got the house phone with the answering machine.
Yeah. Yep,
exactly. Yep. Matter of fact, they have that whole episode where they have to swap out the tape on an
That's
answering
right.
machine with George.
That's right.
But outside of that, it's still just it holds right up. It's a great show.
It definitely does. You can
Mhm.
watch it for the first time too.
Mhm.
You can.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, because I wasn't a big Seinfeld watcher. My wife loves the show.
Uh-huh.
So it pops on from time to time. And I like for me, more times than not, they're the first time I've watched them.
Oh really?
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
wow.
I just it wasn't
Right,
wasn't
'cause
my
it wasn't
world.
your thing.
Yeah, it's good.
Yep.
It's not that I don't like it. It's just wasn't like must see TV
Sure,
for me.
sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, you can watch it for the first time.
Yeah.
It's good.
It's all on Netflix.
Is it really?
I've watched the whole series probably at least 3 times from front end to back end, believe it or not. I'm a big Seinfeld fan. What I couldn't believe is how about 10, 15 years after the show ended, how everybody went nuts and said it was a show that was very politically incorrect. Did you hear about all that?
Uh-uh.
Oh, there were a lot of people that are saying, I can't believe people watched that. It was so insulting to so many different types of people and everything. And I'm like, really?
Yeah.
if you
Which
would've
was partially
picked
the
through it-
point of the
Which
show.
is the whole
at
point of
time.
the show.
Yeah.
The end of the show was exactly about
Yeah,
that, where they
yeah.
got convicted of being jerks.
I've seen
right?
it characterized like you couldn't get away with that these days.
Yeah.
That type of thing.
But you
Which,
could do that about anything from
exactly.
I mean,
Like,
it's
it moves so quick.
to do that, to go back and like that. We don't need to open that can of worms. It's just ridiculous.
Yeah.
Oh, the thing you did 10
Judging
years ago.
history by today's values.
Yes. Yes.
Mhm.
You have too much time on your hands if you're doing that.
Exactly.
It's way too much time on your hands.
But PC as a movement, political correctness has been probably since around that time. Right?
I think it's fair. It's been reinvented. We
As
call
a
it, we call
talking
it
point.
wokeness now.
Yeah.
Well, my least favorite term in forever.
Yeah, because it should be a positive term.
Yeah,
but then
absolutely. It's like, wait a minute.
It's
How-
spun negative. Yeah.
How dare
Yeah.
you be tolerant of other people?
But the
and their
same thing was
choices?
with politically correct, right? It became, and it was a label for something that should have been positive, and then you turn it negative,
right, exactly.
Exactly.
Yeah.
turn it against itself.
Watch that. Watch it eat itself.
Yeah.
Like a snake.
Yeah.
Thanks for the audience on YouTube and Facebook to let us know that our audio is good this week. We just
good.
wanted to say thank you, Jimothy. So everything's going good this week.
Finally figuring it out.
I don't know about that. We figured it out for a little bit of time. It'll probably change next week, but at least we got it going this time.
There is a difference between figuring it out and getting it to work.
Yes, exactly.
Mhm.
I
And
think
that's
we
what
got
I
it.
do. I get it to
We
work.
got it to work, not figure it out. Exactly.
And if the guy who always figures it out but never gets it to work, he's probably not so good at the figuring out part, right? He's
Exactly.
probably a little bit fake on that.
I don't
part.
think you understand
I
what
got-
figuring out
yeah.
means.
I got it, guys. I got it. Here we go.
Look, it works.
All right.
Don't
Try
move.
this. Oh, all right.
Hey, we got a lot to talk about this week. I guess the biggest news in the real estate world this week is interest rates, like it was
I thought it
last
was
week.
NAR stuff.
NAR stuff.
Yeah.
I don't know. Let me tell you, that whole NAR stuff. My staff has been.
NAR is National Association
I'm sorry.
of
Thank
Realtors.
you.
right?
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you for setting the foundation, Johnny. I'm
Yeah.
usually better at that. National Association of Realtors and the Multiple Listing Service, which is the MLS. They were both sued, along with a bunch of big brokerages, and they've changed the way that we're going to be doing real estate transactions from time immemorial forward right now.
Well, let me tell you how it's sieved
Yeah,
out,
I'd love
sieved out
to-
in the real world.
Well,
I had
let
a
me
client
just
yesterday.
but before, let me just set a foundation what we're talking about, okay? And then I'd love you to tell me what's going on from the mortgage.
let me set the.
Oh,
the-
you want to
she-
do it?
No, she called me and she asked, "Hey, Mike, what is this? What is this real estate transaction fee?" Why am I being charged that? Didn't they just have a whole this is a buyer. Didn't they just have a whole lawsuit and I can't be charged this realtor transaction fee? It was like, $295.
Oh,
that,
the
that was
transaction
that was
fee.
that was her question to me. So didn't they just have a big lawsuit? I can't be charged that fee.
Mm-hmm.
There's your setup.
This
is how it's
I didn't
filtered
even
out
think
down
about
into the real world.
transaction fee. I didn't even think about that. So some realtors and some brokerages
This was a buyer asking me that question.
Yes, and
Okay.
you can have a transaction fee on the seller side or the buyer side. Like your agent, as the buyer's agent, could charge a transaction fee. The listing agent could charge the seller a transaction fee. They can even charge the buyer a transaction fee. The listing agent could say, I want your buyer to pay X amount of dollars for a transaction fee. I've seen that before.
Right. As a like a line item in the
contract.
As
a line item, it has to be disclosed. It's not a secret, right? It has to be put in there. That buyer that had a question about the transaction fee, the first thing they should do is look at their exclusive buyer's agreement. And in there, it'll say, is there a transaction fee? And if there is, how much it is. Okay. Transaction fees are a lot of different things. Okay. Some people use it for storage of documents because you got to keep the documents, I think, either 5 or 7 years. So the brokerage has to store all that stuff. I'm sure they do it electronically, but they sometimes add that fee on to the agent, say, hey, every transaction you do, we want you to pay X amount of dollars on top of the commission splits that you have to give us as a brokerage. So some people pass that fee on to their customers. I do. I'm being honest. I do pass on that fee. Sometimes I waive it, and it's up to me. If I do waive it, I'm eating it. So I have to decide on a case-by-case basis. But let's go into, so that was your one question?
No, well, I just wanted to set up because how the information has filtered down to like the just the regular buyer, right? They're not experts, they're not professionals, they're just doing this. She somehow, maybe through the rumor mill or through someone giving her advice or whatever it is, thought that the NAR settlement was something about any fees charged to the buyer. And it's like it's like just so wrong. It's not even wrong, right? You know what I mean? Like, have you heard that term? Right? Like, that's not even wrong, right? It's just so far away from what could potentially be a correct, interpretation that it's couldn't even be considered wrong. Right? You know what I mean?
It's so true. I read an article in CNN about a week ago, and it's like changes coming to the real estate industry. What you need to know. So I'm like, okay, I want to see what the general public is reading about what's happening right now. And the first 3 paragraphs were just so factually incorrect. If I were a copy editor, I would fire the person that wrote the thing and said, what the hell are you doing?
No, if you were a copy editor who knew the story, right? Who knew the difference between
copy
right
editors usually check things.
Oh.
Right? That's what their job is. It's a fact checker, right?
Okay.
Not just, they don't just worry about the grammar. They worry about the factual information in there too.
Does anybody worry about grammar nowadays?
I know nobody does, right? So like the thing is that just for the people that don't know what's going on, August 17th, we went under a new regulation across the nation where sellers are no longer allowed, or the listing agent are no longer allowed to put any type of commission information being offered to the buyer's side in the MLS, period. And you can't put it on your company websites like Keller Williams. I work for Keller Williams. I can't put any commission information in there. I can't put it on my own website because I have a search engine there for people to help look for properties. And because I have that search engine, I'm not allowed to put my listings up and tell you what the commission's being offered, if any. I'm not allowed to do that anymore. In fact, I got warned last week. Remember we talked about those fines? The first fine we were told was the first warning. The first thing was a warning. Violation was a warning. The second we heard was $2,500, and then the third violation was $5,000. I got my first warning because I had in there. Now listen to this, guys. I had nothing in there about commissions, but in the broker's remark, where the realtors. In the broker's mark on the listings, on multiple listing service, only realtors could look at the broker remarks. The public can't see it. So that's like internal information, the listing agent communicating with any buyer's agents out there about what they need to know about the property or the transaction. So I put in those comments that we were offering a buy down on the interest rates if they gave us the right terms. Is everything okay, guys?
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, sure. And write down, I put in there that the seller was offering a potential buy down on the interest rates
As a credit.
As a credit. They took it out.
I would assume that's not, you can't do that. Like,
no,
even
that
just
has
a layman,
nothing to
that
do
doesn't
with
feel like-
commissions. That is
yeah, but it's like there's a temptation to it to be more favorable to your property. That's the way I've perceived everything. You just can't give any slant to be like, hey, come to this property and here's why. Like, to weigh it out for an advantage.
we were told before it went up that we were allowed to put that stuff in there.
Really? So
That's
the
why
way
we
I
left
perceived it,
'cause
just
I
feels
had to
like that
take-
wouldn't fit.
Right. We had to take it all out.
Did
So
they
we
tell
left that.
you? So they bring it down. They're like, "Hey, is warning." Do they tell you exactly? Like, you cannot have any language above and beyond the sales price as far as numbers go.
What they
something like
said,
that?
nope. What they said, they gave me something, right? So I get this. Oh, let me see if I can find it. Hold on, let's just see.
Be careful. It might be.
I don't care.
It might be private. What would that be called? Like privileged material.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, could be privileged.
I don't think so.
That's the juicy.
Cannot be shared.
The good stuff. Yeah, the dirt, as they call it. Remember, Florida Talk Real Estate is a team
We'll
of
come
pros.
back to it. I
pros.
don't want to look.
You
Yeah.
hit them all at Florida Talk Real Estate.
It's too buried. I
Dang,
realize
I'll-
it's a couple hundred emails in my.
If one of
database.
the, kind of one of the underlying arguments with the whole settlement was that there was several factors, but one of them, Johnny, was that commissions were kind of artificially inflating purchase prices, right? So real estate value, essentially. And maybe the, advertising that there's kind of a built-in seller credit is under that same vein, right? Where it's like, hey, we know we're offering this, X amount, $10,000 or whatever it is as a seller credit, that can kind of be construed as baked in and maybe artificially bolstering up the value as well. So maybe that's why they're not allowing that either, right? You can't say what the commissions are, and you can't say if there's any additional funds, that are
Right.
greasing the wheels, so to
Right,
speak, right?
right.
Something like that.
Hey, I don't know if Rich is listening or not, but we just blocked you. You can't put stuff on our website without permission. Sorry about that, Rich. Okay. Yes. So I'm very struggling with the rationality of what's trying to happen. So I'm not going to rationalize anything that they ruled on because I think it's ridiculous, in my opinion.
Yes.
I think they could have tweaked the system for sure, but the way they tweaked it made it more complicated, less transparent, not more transparent.
Yep,
right?
because
It's just completely. I'm almost to the point. I actually thought last week, swear my hand to God, do I really need to be a realtor anymore?
Oh,
Maybe I should just be a real estate agent, dump my realtor license, don't get on the MLS, right?
oh.
Put everything on the other.
Oh, you're not thinking of a career change. You're just what affiliation do you
Yeah, I'm
have?
thinking, why do I need to be a realtor? I'll just stay a real estate agent. I won't have to deal with any other obligations. I could put anything I want on my website, right? I could put it on Zillow and Trulia and Realtor.com and put it all out there, and then I don't use the MLS.
So
I'm not doing that, guys, because I'm not sure that that's the smart move. Because right now the MLS is the 800-pound gorilla.
yeah, that's
But
really what it's all about.
but
though,
it's
right? I mean, it's the point of contention is about. But the funny thing is so Zillow can do things
Has
that
more
they can't
information.
do on the MLS. So that's when you dissect what they're doing, you're like, none of it really makes a ton of sense, and you're almost like doing favors for certain mechanisms versus others.
I
It's almost
agree.
like a pay for play kind of, not pay for play, but it feels incentivized through some other motivation.
Yeah.
It does. From a layman just learning as we're going, it's like, who's really trying to make this happen and why? Because the reasons that are laid out don't make a ton of sense. Because again, there are things like appraisals
Mhm.
that don't care whose credit is getting what. I mean, it doesn't matter to the appraiser.
It kind of
They
matters.
no,
Does
it
it?
does. They do.
Kind
They
of.
do
For
check on.
value?
Yes, absolutely. AJ would tell you that all day long. AJ experienced appraisers. He'll tell you that all
Gosh,
day
I
long.
just can't insert it in that equation though.
Don't you remember that last time
Last
he
week?
was on? He was complaining that that he can't get the information he needs, and the two things were what was the real estate commission, And did you get any concessions? Now the concessions.
Oh, I see what
He's
you're saying.
always had to account for.
And the funny part is
I see
the
what you're
MLS
saying.
still puts in, did you have any concessions in this transaction?
Because it's required for the appraisers.
Right. So that's still in there. But
Yeah.
if I put in there that I'm offering a concession to buy down the interest rate, they won't let me put it in there until after the fact. Right.
So it can't be anything that's at least, I don't want to say knowledge, because there is knowledge of it, but it can't be anything that's going to be a variable until the close, essentially.
Until you start negotiating the deal. Okay. So the way it works.
You can always put in something that says like, well, you test this. It's almost like prompt engineering with the AI stuff. Like how do you get the AI to give you the answer you're actually looking for? Well, you structure your question and so what if you could put something in like, don't hesitate to call to ask us about seller commissions and
can't
or
do
credits.
that. No.
Definitely can't put that.
Fine. Boom.
Wow,
you can't
at
do
least a
anything
warning,
like
huh?
that. What you have to do is put nothing in there. Nothing. And then the agent got to find out afterwards.
So
the
it can be
buyer's
spoken.
agent's going to
So you
find
could
out.
put all day.
I'm sorry.
It can be spoken all day.
Oh yeah. You could pick up the phone and call me. Hey Jim, is your seller offering any commissions on that deal? Because I got a buyer that might want to come over. Yeah, Johnny, my guy says that he'll pay 2.5%. That's legal.
So you could take 1,000 phone calls and just put out all
writing.
You just can't put it in writing for all to consume.
Yeah, so
I
it's
could
not
do
a big
phone
secret.
calling and call all the agents and tell them.
What?
Yeah, I can call all the agents. Go, hey, 123 Main Street I have for sale. It's a 3% commission.
So they just want you guys to just be busier. They're like, hey, pick up the phone, y'all.
They want us to be less transparent. This is like idiocracy rules, but I don't know how much it's going to affect everything overall. And the reason why is right now, at least, okay, it'll be different if we ever get to a COVID. When I call it the COVID market, I'm talking about where it was crazy town. I've never seen a crazier market than that.
That was wild.
People were throwing in offers with no inspection, no appraisal, cash. Just turning in cash. They were doing financing, but they wanted to beat out other people, and they were pretty confident they were going to get the loan, so they were offering cash even though they didn't have it. Right? All kinds of crazy.
I'm trying to
things
think
happened
if
by then.
2003 leading up to 2006.
It was pretty
was
good.
crazier, and it was crazier because the lending, like it almost didn't matter if it was going to appraise. It didn't matter like if you had any money, right? It didn't matter if you had a job or not. You could still
Let me tell you a
True.
funny story about that market, because that's the market I started in, but I wasn't a realtor or anything. I was just flipping houses back then, part-time while I was working at my other job. And I remember I worked at this one house. It was my first very flip by myself. I bought it in 2000. I bought it in 2004, and I thought I was going to buy it, fix it up, sell it in 6 months. And I had a certain budget. I'm making up numbers. I had $50,000 construction budget, finish everything in 6 months, close it. Right. So after everything was done, I was supposed to make my annual salary at the paper.
Yeah.
Right. Now that it isn't a lot of money. I was working at a newspaper, right? So it wasn't a lot, but an annual salary, still an annual salary, right?
Yeah, bless you.
So I didn't, bless you, Mike, didn't know what was going on with that. I was totally clueless when I did it. So it took me a year to finish the house. And it took me $100,000 to fix up the house, not 50, right? And then the whole time when I blew my budget and blew the timeline, I was like, oh my God, I'm taking a bath. I'm spending so much money. I was so clueless back then. This is how I learned real estate. The market was going up so fast ahead of me.
Yeah.
It was better that I held it for 6 months, because I made double the amount of money that I thought I was going to make on the deal, right? Now that was a crazy market. And let me tell you what happened to that. I got $35,000 or $40,000 more than I thought I was going to get in a million years on that house. And the guy came and met with me, and he was an investor. And he says, I'm going to buy it. I'm going to buy it cash. And we shook a hand, but we didn't have a contract, right? And I'm not a realtor at that point. It was my first flip ever, right? So I didn't have contracts handy and everything.
But your word was your bond.
Shook my hand, right? We shook. We
Word
left.
is bond, John.
Next day, guy comes over, starts looking at the house, guy from New York. And he goes, hey, I want to buy the house cash. And he gave me like $50,000 more than the other guy gave me. And I said, I can't do it. And he goes, why? And I go, I already have a deal with the other guy. And he goes, do you have anything in writing? Which is state law. If it isn't in writing, it doesn't count. No, but my word is my word. So closed with the first guy. I still made more money than I thought I was going to make. I actually made double of what I made double my annual salary that time.
Way to fall right in.
After the extra costs too. I still made double.
Beautiful.
So I was happy.
Yeah.
Right. I knew I was quitting my job. I was like, I'm out of here. Tell the company I was waiting for this line. Hey, I'm going to up my salary, up yours. That's what I told my boss when I left, Jake. Right.
Did you run that by your
He gave me a
editor?
big hug. Yeah, the editor. He gave me a big hug. He knew what I was trying to do.
Yeah.
He was like, I'm glad you were able to accomplish it.
Totally.
But anyway, so that was a crazy market. That was a total crazy market. And then after that, I forgot to tell you, then I go to the closing. I'm all happy. I'm getting my check, right? I'm so excited. Did my first deal. And then who comes in? The guy that came in the day after I shook the hand with the buyer, right? And he comes in and I go, what are you doing here? He goes, I'm buying it from the guy that just bought it for you. And I'm paying $100,000 more than you sold it to him for. That's why I offered you 50 more. You're a moron. Right. And I said, no, I did what I needed to do. And I probably was a moron in a way, but I felt like I achieved way more than I expected when I bought the house. So I was satisfied. You can't be like that.
If your word doesn't mean squat, you are trash.
Yeah.
And your word is solid.
I feel like doing the right thing all the time. I feel like if you don't do the right thing all the time, but you try to do the right thing all the time. And if you do that, I feel like it comes back to you. And I'm not doing it for it to come back, but it just karma.
Live in the right way.
Yeah, just try to do the best you can. Make a difference.
Although I'm reminded of that scene in Jerry Maguire. You remember the dad, like, agreed verbally with Jerry to represent him. He said something like his word is oak, or his handshake is oak, or something like that. And then he just went with the other guy at the end.
Sure did.
Well, I'm stupid enough not to do that. I do it the other way. But
it's probably more than 50 G's.
So this market, like in those kind of markets, the COVID market or the crazy 2003, 2005 market, that's where the sellers are really going to have the sway over the buyers. They can kind of do almost anything they want.
Inventory super tight, not too many buyers out there. A lot of buyers out there. Inventory tight.
You don't want to take my terms. I'll go over to the next guy. Yeah. Right? No big deal.
Sure.
But when we have a market like today, where our sales are down 20, 25% compared to average.
Just to remember, we're talking about whether the seller is going to pay the commission to the buyer's agent or not. Right. That's the preference of this.
What am I doing? I'm
vamping.
What did he call it? The weaving. I'm weaving. I'm doing 2 hours of stuff and weaving it all together.
You're like braiding it together.
I'm weaving it together. So what was happening with that was the markets were really crazy. So now that the markets aren't so crazy, the sellers need those buyers agents because there aren't that many buyers out there. I was just telling did I tell you, Mike, off air?
I don't know.
One of our top agents had 8 properties on for open houses last week. 0 showings on 8 properties.
Not a one?
I've done 5 open houses and I've had 1 showing.
What?
Yes, it's dead. It's dead out there. We're 25% down on sales right now.
But that
buyers are just not there.
To me. That's crazy.
Yeah. So it's a great time to be a buyer right now and we're going to get to interest rates a little later. I'm going to get to the NAR thing, but it is a great time to be a buyer right now because it is so dead. The prices are very good. The sellers are motivated. Your interest rates are dropping. We'll get into that a little bit later, Mike. You get some good news. Mike, you should be smiling today because when we were going up and up and up and up,
yeah,
we're so gloomy because it was so frustrating to all of us. And now we're going down, 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 down. So it's kind of nice.
Yeah, I'm so stuck in like, what's the significance of it? Like, are we leading out the Fed's decision? Are we out in front of it? We kind of have to be out in front of it a little bit because of the way that mortgage rates are locked in for 30 and 45 and 60 days, things like that.
I think it's going to be a half a point, guys. Okay, so I know that's not everybody, but I think it might be. I think there's better than 50-50.
If they do, it just cements everything where you're like, they're just clowns. They really don't care. The
PCI report just came out, Johnny. The PCI the price consumer index, which is what they really use, not the consumer price index. It's the price price
I don't know.
consumption. That PCI is what the Fed likes. We always use the consumer price index. The PCI came out pretty good, meaning that we still have a strong economy, but we're not like overheated anymore.
Yeah, so
I'm
leave
not
it alone.
saying- yeah.
Leave it alone. That's what that tells you. We're doing good. Leave her be.
Mm-hmm.
Let it go.
Yeah,
That's what they should do.
It's going to be interesting if they do drop it. We're going to see what's going to happen. I'm almost guaranteeing in my mind that they're going to drop it. It's just about how much they're going to drop. And I'm leaning towards a quarter, but I wouldn't be surprised with the half. I feel like if this was July or December, they might have done the half because of the whole election thing. You know, if they drop it a half point during the, 4 weeks or 5 weeks between the election or 6 weeks from the election, there's going to be people complaining that it was a setup to make it look good for one administration over the other.
There's always going to be complaining. I mean, you can't stop that regardless.
But getting back to north,
we're getting to the holiday season. And they definitely want to make sure people are spending. So that's the only thing in my mind where I'm like, well, maybe. But that's always been there. I still am firmly planted on it's a terrible decision. Stay where you're at.
But getting back to the north. So with the north thing, what everybody doesn't understand, and getting back to that CNN report. So I read the CNN report. It says sellers are no longer
obligated.
No, they didn't use the word obligated. I would have been okay with that.
Okay.
They said sellers are not allowed.
Oh.
Right, to work, to offer anything to the buyers. And I'm like, that's crazy town. That's not true at all. Right. And there were a couple other things that were just totally fact errors in the situation.
Yeah.
So this is what you need to know. I know it's getting a little, hey, good morning, Susan. Good morning, Joyce.
It's a big basket. It's a big basket you've weaved so far.
Yeah, it's a very big basket. I don't know if I'm going to tie it all together. I'm probably going to fail. But with NAR, what you need to understand as a buyer, I just had this happen last week. When you work with a buyer now, you have to tell the buyer that they must sign an agreement with you before you go to see a house, any house, and discuss what the commission that you're going to be asking for, or to either the buyer or the seller.
Okay.
Before you actually go into the house and see it.
Even open house?
Except for open houses, or if they're working directly with the listing agent. If Mike wanted to buy the property I have listed, I don't have to sign an agreement with him, and he doesn't have to sign with me. He can come see it.
What about like virtual tours, or like where I go to the house and we're on like Facebook Live or something?
Nope. Virtual tour is a tour. It's a preview and it counts, and you have to sign a document. So if you're going to do a Facebook FaceTimey thing inside the house, right?
Okay.
You have to have a document signed.
Okay.
Right. So when buyers say,
you always had to have a realtor, right? So if you had a listing, you had a lockbox on there, a realtor would have to get a potential buyer in there, right, to show them. That always had to be the case. But now they actually have to have a buyer's agreement with said realtor.
With commission.
The
commission's the
It can't
key.
just be, hey, can you show me that house?
Mm-mm.
It's got to be contractually, you're my buyer's agent. Here's our commission scale. That's all got to be in place now.
Yep. And so what happens is when people call now, they say, no, I don't want to do that because, I'm telling them straight up, right? I'm not like, because I'm a trained realtor, right?
You have always done buyer's agreements before you're showing properties.
Yes.
Like you've always done.
Yes. That's just a common thing for me. The difference is now when I had the buyer's agreement before, I would talk, we would not, during short sales, I would put in the commission that I wanted from the bank. Okay. And I would put that in the agreement with the buyer. Because it was a short sale, the buyers didn't pay that commission. The bank paid the commission. So I would tell the buyer, I'm going to ask for 4%. Are you okay with that? Right. And then I only did that so I could negotiate down to 3 instead of 2 with the bank. Because if I was at 3, they were going to knock me down to 2. So I asked for 4 so that I'd usually get 3. Right. But
ask for more than what you want.
Right.
Johnny.
Well, yeah. So wow, negotiations, right? So then, but then what happened is after the short sales, we still put people in buyer's agreements. And the reason why is I'm not going to drive around or have my staff drive around and show you a whole bunch of different properties.
Yeah.
Unless you're with us and you're going to be using us and we're working together, and you need that as a buyer. And if you don't want to do that, no hard feelings, but I can't work with you in that level.
And there was a lot of agents out there that would show properties and go
all
around, and they got a weird pre-approval and all this stuff, and then they don't have any arrangement on paper. There's no signature saying they're going to work together. And then all of a sudden, one weekend, you're like, oh, I can't show you properties this Saturday because I'm doing this. And all of a sudden, they go, talk to a listing agent at an open house or something like
call
that.
up
And
Zillow.
so there's risk there. So maybe this is a good thing, because now the conversation about getting the buyer's agreement is more like, hey, we have to do this.
It's just like
you don't
the
have
listing
to convince
side
them anymore.
It's
right?
just like the listing side. When you do a listing presentation, it's involved, right? You got 30 pages to sign. You're going over the property. You're figuring out what it's worth, how you're going to sell it, what you're going to net at the end.
Sure.
What the commissions are, and discussing commission structure. And with buyers, it was like, hey, if you want to work with me, Mike, you got to be full time. Here's an agreement, sign it. We're going to be in this time period. I'm your agent. So no matter what you buy, whether you get your relative's property or a new construction or anything else, you're obligated to work with me.
Right.
Right.
I mean, you kind of had to say something. I'm committing my time and energy to you. This is what I'm asking for you to commit to me. So this document just basically says, it's not like, you can cancel any time, but
yes, you can
like
cancel
for the next
time
6
with
months,
no fee,
like I'm your agent.
with no fee, like cancellation fee. But the thing is that what I did different after the short sale market, I didn't put the commissions in.
You would leave that blank.
I would leave it blank because I was willing to take whatever the seller was going to give us based on what house that they wanted, right? So if they were giving us a 2% or a 4% commission, I didn't know when I signed up with you, Mike, what I was going to get. I'm just going to get whatever the seller is going to offer me.
Right.
For the house that you want to buy.
Because the normal market is the seller was paying both sides of the commission. That's how it's been for many, many, many years. Successful, seems, arguably successful model, right?
So today, what's happening in today's market is when I sign that buyer's agreement with you, I have to put in commission. I have to. It's a regulation now.
And it has to match what you want.
Yes,
2.5%, 3%, whatever that is, that's what you got to get paid on.
Right. So you say, Mike, look, I'd love to work with you. I'd like to get, I'm making up numbers here because it depends on the case. A bigger house, I'm going to ask for a smaller commission probably than a lower priced home. Okay. Because of the percentages. But I would say, Mike, I'm going to ask the seller to pay me 3% commission on this. Are you okay with that? And you go, yeah, I'm okay with that. So when we structure the deal, I'm always going to turn in 3%. Okay. Yes, I'm okay with that. But Mike, you have to understand, if the seller says, I don't want to pay a fee at all, or I'll pay 2%, but not 3%, I have the right to come back to you and ask you for the difference. And you have to agree with that up front, Mike. Are you okay with that? Because we don't know what house we're buying. And probably this isn't going to be an issue, but it might be an issue. So we have to talk about it now before we get in the car and start looking.
Am I obligated to pay that difference? Or
in the
are we going to negotiate it, you and me? When the time, like, let's say they're offering 2.5%. We've agreed to 3%. Do I have to pay you that difference, or can you just say no, Mike?
It's negotiable. It's negotiable, but we might start it. And it's also going to depend. Like, I'm going to talk to the mortgage person and say, look, do they have any extra money to give up if they need to?
Yep.
Right. And where you have to have that conversation now with the mortgage broker, not just, hey, what can they afford? Like Mike's great app, by the way. Congratulations, Scott. Scott, we just got you. Yeah, I know. Scott, we just got you approved for a loan. He's been talking to us for over 3 years. He saved a whole bunch of money, boosted his credit score, just got approved from Mike. Mike has the app now. But what I don't know in that app, if he has to pay any real estate commissions, can Scott or whoever the buyer is afford to pay the down payment, closing costs, prepaids, plus a little bit of commission?
And this is new enough where, so what we're going to be doing. So now I'm not your buyer anymore. Now I'm Mike, the lender.
Right.
Jim, I'm going to need to see your buyer agreement for this guy, because I got to know kind of what we're dealing with. Like, what's the edge case? Your guy, our buyer has to come up with 3% in order to cover your commission. So how does that impact how much money they have available for the rest of the transaction?
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
So I need your agreement, but then of course that's our edge case. What we want is for the seller to go ahead and, kick in as much as they can.
And that's why a lot of this right now in today's market, I'm saying it's not really as big of a deal as people make it to be, because what I'm going to do is, if Johnny's got a property for sale and he's the listing agent and I have a buyer that wants to buy Johnny's, or at least see Johnny's property to see if they want to buy it, some people are going to call Johnny up front and say, Johnny, some agents are going to call Johnny up front. Hey, Johnny, I just want to I want to see if you're seller is going to offer or consider any kind of commissions to the buyer side, because I'm trying to decide if I'm going to go show your property or not. Okay. And a lot of agents are going to do that. The problem I have with that is if the property's competitive and you have to make a fast decision, what happens if Johnny's too busy to call me back? Or what happens if he's just one of those realtors that never call you back?
Yeah.
Right. And I'm waiting. Is there a commission? Is there a commission? I'm not doing that. What I'm doing for my buyers, because that's taking too long. What I'm going to do for my buyers is I'm going to turn the offer in with a commission agreement. Here's our agreement. I'm asking for 3%, and this is the terms of the contract. So now you're going to be turning in 2 contracts to the listing agent. One is the as-is or purchase and sale contract or as-is contract and all the addendums and the disclosures for all that. That's about 25, 30 pages.
Is it addenda or addendums?
Addendae, maybe.
Addendae?
Addendae is a plural. I don't know. I think addendums.
All right, sorry.
But so besides turning in your regular contract stuff, now you have to turn in a second document saying, and this is how much commission I want you to pay me, Mr. Seller.
Oh.
Okay. And then it becomes negotiated. That part I don't have a problem with. I have no problem because I used to tell everybody commissions are negotiable.
Of course.
Always said that,
Yep.
right? But not everybody did that. That's why the whole industry's in trouble. So I don't have a problem with you turning in an offer and then the seller deciding when the offer's turned in, how much commission they want to pay based on that offer, right? I don't have a problem with that. And buyers agents are terrified of this right now, right? And
because they never had to negotiate. It was always negotiated when you took the listing.
Because the listing agent got your commission,
Pre-negotiated.
got the buyers. Now the buyers agents have to work for the commission a little harder by turning in offers that the seller think is valuable enough in
Yeah.
order to pay the commission you're asking
And
for.
you think about how this will play out. Let's say you have 2 homes, same neighborhood,
I love this example. Go ahead. I
right?
like
So
this.
same
I like this.
neighborhood, you just have 2 different sellers. They're going to walk away with the exact same amount of money. One of them is listing at, 500,000, offering commissions on both sides. Well, the other one, if they list at 500,000 but don't offer commissions, they are less likely to sell than the people who's offering the commissions, right? And therefore, in order for them to sell, they probably have to be a little bit cheaper than their neighbor, right? Because the
buyer has to pay the commission.
yeah, so technically they could sell it like 485, and the other guy's selling at 500, and they both walk away with the same money,
the same net, yeah,
right?
the same.
But
net.
the problem is, not everyone's going to have that $15,000 in cash essentially to make up. So you know what I mean? So it's like you're not gaining anything as a seller by not offering commissions, right? Because it's going to be harder for you to sell than your neighbors. I don't know. I just don't see how it benefits that sell, because the seller's just thinking like, oh, I get to save that money, so I'm going to sell at 500 just like my other neighbor's selling at 500.
Right.
No, but they're offering commission and you're not. So you're not going to get 500. You're going to get something less than that.
Yeah. I guess desirability will come into play too, but it's
Yeah, of course. I'm just saying like equal houses.
all things on equal footing. Yeah.
And then it
Yeah, that's a
and I'm
perfect
glossing
analogy.
over some stuff because in the listing agreement, when you sit down with the seller, there's 3 ways to pay there's 2 ways to pay the commission and 1 way to pay no commission at all, right? So you have 3 boxes. One way is to say, hey, Jim, you're going to be my listing agent. I'm going to pay you X amount of percent to be my agent. And I'm willing to offer another X percent to the buyer's agent, but I want you to handle it. And then what happens is that it's just like the old times. I put out the commission, I have a set commission built in and I know what it is. And if Johnny calls you up, it's like, are you offering commission? Yeah, 2.5% or 3% or whatever it is. Right. But,
so in other words, give us what we want and we got you covered.
But in the document, it says that the listing agent is paying the buyer's agent. That would be first way. Second way is, and this is the way I'm going to deal with it, I'm going to say to you, Johnny, you're the seller this time, right? Hey, Johnny, this is how much commission I want, and I'm going to show you this is what I'm going to do for that commission. Now, do you want to pay anything to the buyer's agent? Will you consider paying anything to the buyer's agent?
Sure.
Okay, you said yes. Okay,
Johnny's
great.
like, do I have to?
So-
well, no, you don't
Well,
have to.
you can ask that.
But here's,
That's a good question to ask if you want to say, do I have to? My answer would be no, you don't have to. But what I need to know is that a straight absolutely not paying? Because if it is, we do need to tell everybody that. But if you're willing to pay something, let's kind of keep it on the down low. And what we'll do is we're going to take it on
DL.
a case by case situation and let them turn in an offer. And then that way, Johnny, you have control of that commission. You could decide, hey, if they're offering me $465 on my $500,000 house, I don't even want to sell my house for $465, so I'm not paying you anything, right? I'm rejecting the offer. Or you could say, I'm going to do $475 and I'll give you 0.5% or 1%. I'm just making up things, right? You could do whatever you want to do. You're in control. Now, because you're in control, if you make a decision that doesn't work, the buyer can walk, right? The buyer could say, I'm out. Or if you're not going to pay anything and the buyer can't afford the commission, they could just say this isn't going to work, right, Mike? At that point, the buyer's agent could just, or the buyer,
they
could
just say we can't do it. Sorry,
can't do
it's
it.
almost like if somebody did not have sufficient cash, and any offer they made, they said we have to get a seller credit. Like we need $8,000 to get us over the hump. We don't have family. We don't. It's not. We got to get it from the seller.
Mm-hmm.
That makes it very easy to make your offer and ask for that because you need it. So it's like, hey, listen, here's our offer. We need $8K seller credit. If you can't do this, like we got to walk away. And it's going to be the same type of thing. Like we just don't have the buy side. We don't have the cash to be able to cover that.
Mm-hmm.
So we either got to structure this in a way so that you guys can help out with that, or, one way or the other. It's almost like, Jim, it's like before everyone was doing the same thing, there was probably a lot of this type of negotiation. And then at some point, the brighter minds in the room said, you know what? Geez, we end up with this weird negotiation. We're not only negotiating sales price, we're also negotiating like costs, right? We're kind of negotiating costs for both sides initially. And we probably, the majority of the time, they ended up at the same conclusion, which was, where's the money at? Usually it's on the sell side of the transaction. How do we structure this thing so that the buyer's costs are as little as possible because they're the ones struggling to get into the home. So they're like probably 9 times out of 10, seller ends up paying these negotiated costs. And then they're like, why don't we just standardize this? Like take the whole negotiation part out. And then they landed where they've landed for however many years, where essentially they're like, yeah, sellers pay commissions. You decide how much it's going to be, but that's where the money is. And now that whole kind of natural progression towards a simple concept has been undone. And now we're back to this whatever. So now you got to negotiate not only the price of the home, but also a portion of the closing costs, which is commissions, needs to be negotiated as part of your deal.
That's right.
On every single deal.
And if you think about it, so the way I'm handling it on my team is we're just going to turn in the offer, right? I'm not going to call up Johnny and ask him, hey, are you going to offer a commission, not offer commission? I'm going to turn in what I consider to be, my buyer considers to be a very good offer, and we're going to ask for our commission.
So you're going to show them homes that they can't buy?
I don't know. Nobody knows if they can buy or not because we don't have any information.
I'll tell you what, if the cash is limited, whatever, there's always a limit on cash, but let's say whatever, you got $30,000, like you've saved up, you got maybe whatever it is, 30 grand. And I've got the 30 grand. If I have to pay the commissions, my cash requirement is going to be 42,000.
Right.
Or 38,000.
And you don't have it.
And I just don't have it. Are you going to show me a home where my closing costs, including this commission thing, are going to be over the amount of money I have?
Yes, because in the agreement, because I didn't get into the nitty-gritty, in the buyer's agreement, we're going to discuss this.
Okay.
And then you might say, if I can't afford this house because of the commissions, I don't want to see it.
Yeah.
You could do that.
Sure.
I can't because that's steering, right? But you can. You could say, Jim, if I have to pay a commission, I can't afford it. Don't show me those houses. Now, the problem is it's very hard to know what houses, at least at the beginning of this, we're brand new. It's going to be hard to know what houses you will work with you and what won't. So I'm just going to go ahead and go in there and turn in the offer and see what happens, especially, Mike, if the house has been on the market 60, 70, 80, 180 days. Yes, that's happening all the time right now. And the house has been on the market 90 days, and I turn in an offer with the commission, and the seller says, I'm not paying a commission. What that tells me is and we turn in a reasonable offer, that tells me the seller isn't motivated to sell their house anyway, right? And it probably wasn't going to work.
But it's also possible that that listing has an agreement in place where the seller says 0 commission to the buyer's agent.
I'm sorry.
It's possible that listing has a document in place that says 0 commission to the buyer's agent.
All of mine are.
So you could say, I am not
mine's
paying
going to say
commission to
I'm
the
not
buyer's
paying
agent.
my document on my seller. If Johnny says he's willing to pay a commission, but he wants to see what the offer is, I'm going to have him check. I'm not paying commission.
Well, then I would.
And then when they turn in the offer, he could change his mind. He'd go, oh, this is a pretty good offer. I don't mind paying 3%
But he could also
on
say,
that.
I'm never changing my mind and 0-0. Like
if he does that, I'm going to have a conversation with him about that. If I'm the listing agent, I'm having a deep conversation about that because I got to know.
Why would you ever paint yourself in a corner like that?
Some people just feel that way, but I need to know that up front and that they're not playing mind games with themselves.
But this kind of goes back to my question of like the reason I have the app, right? Mm-hmm. The reason that we do a thorough pre-approval is because you only want to get into a contract that you can actually close on, right? So you got to be closing. You have to know your numbers. You got to be closing. Knowing your numbers is not only the payment, does the payment qualify, but also the cash. But are you going to show me homes where I just don't qualify for the payment? Right? Like if I need to be at $3,000 a month, are you going to show me homes where the resulting payment is $3,500?
Well, maybe you can't. The problem is
let's assume I can't. Let's assume the 3,000 is the limit.
You can't,
and you have the ability to calculate an estimated payment at the purchase price they want with all this stuff, and it's $3,500, and my limit's $3,000. Is there any reason we should go look at that home? Other than
absolutely not. But we might not know ahead of time. If you like a house and you want to turn in an offer. And Johnny's not answering the phone or the text or the email. I'm like, Johnny, are you offering a commission? You offer a commission? You offer a commission? Are you offering a commission? And he's not responding. You get frustrated as the buyer. What the heck's wrong with you, Jim? Why aren't you doing your job? Right.
Yeah. And you're like,
so I'd rather just turn the offer in.
Yeah.
I'd rather just tell him, look, I don't know what's going to happen with this one because the agent won't respond to me. If you like the house enough, let's turn in the offer and let me do my job and let me negotiate a commission because I'm going to be pretty tough with them and saying, your house has been sitting here for 70 days and you don't want to pay any commission. If you want to stay that way, that's fine. We're rescinding our offer.
Yeah.
But we got a really good offer right here.
I guess let's just hope that on the listing side, everyone gets someone into that style of arrangement. We're like, hey, it's going to be negotiable. Mm-hmm. Like, don't draw a line in the sand right now. Let's just wait till the offers come in.
It's this simple. Somebody called me last week. I mentioned on the show last week. It was my first phone call that way. Hey, I'm interested in this property you have in Lake Park. Is the seller offering any commission? And what I said is my seller is very open-minded. Now, on the document, they wrote no. Okay. Yeah. And they knew that, but they also told me that they're willing to pay X amount of commission if they get the right offer. So they're telling us up front no, but they might change their mind if the offer is good. So they want to protect themselves from those low ball offers, right? So what
you have to, sometimes no means no. So you're entering a world here where you got to be careful with people, right?
What do you mean?
Because they say no, they mean no.
That's it.
Right.
No,
it's not like back when you were in college.
Nope. I had a seller. Right? If they're checking off no on the commissions.
Yeah.
What I do is I do a seller net sheet about the commissions that they would consider. And I do a seller net sheet and I have them sign it so that they know we talked about commissions to the buyer side and it's on a case-by-case basis. Because it's going to be on a case-by-case basis. If you're coming in lowball, I got off.
Can I just, because as I'm thinking as you're talking. So I'm just trying to perceive advantages in the listing, right? In the offering of commission.
Who benefits, John?
So if you put
Latin qui bono?
If you put 0, but I'm willing if the offer's right? But that's not very transparent, right? It's not
transparent at all.
No, it's not.
Nobody knows.
But I'm willing if the offer's right. You know that as my listing agent. Why not put in the commission and then only take an offer that you're willing to pay that commission on? Like, why
that's the way it's going to go.
Why eliminate all the potential offers?
I lost you there. What do you think?
Because the perception, the reality for these sellers is I'm not going to offer any commission if they give me a lowball offer, but you're going to decline that offer anyway. So why not bring that buyer in regardless, right? Like that's an offer you're going to decline anyway. So by offering the commission that you feel like would be the commission you're willing to pay, if you get your offer, that's what you've listed your house for. Your agent believes you're going to be able to sell your home for this much, right? And if I can, I'm going to give this much commission to the buy side. Why not just list that?
and then you turn down all your lowball offers like you normally would. I just don't understand why you would eliminate.
Don't have the answer.
And AJ liked what I was talking about as far as like the evolution. And this is exactly like, Johnny, it's already been figured out. That whole, like, everything you just went through has already been hashed out over the years. And then we landed at what was a working,
negotiable.
There was a big class of people who got it. It was crawled under their skin, and they, lawyers involved or whatever. But we essentially landed at a process that was it was transparent. It was consistent.
Yeah.
Right. It didn't have to be that way. It was always optional, but everyone landed on this system that seemed to work. And now we've undone it. And now we got to go through it. So we'll see how it shakes out. I think everyone's going to be reasonable on the seller side, and buyers in certain circumstances simply won't have the money to do it. So we're going to have to navigate that. And maybe at certain like price points, Jim, and maybe where it's more cash and whatever, there's going to be more of this wheeling and dealing.
It's all going to be wheeling and dealing, Mike. Yeah. And what I'm going to do is, if somebody calls up, ring, hey, is your seller offering commission? What I would say is they put down on the document, no, but they're open-minded as to what you turn in. If you turn in a reasonable offer, a fair market value offer based on the neighborhood, they're definitely willing to pay a commission.
Right.
But they want to see what your offer is first. So they don't have that they're putting it out up front, how much they want to pay.
Yeah.
They'll consider it when you turn in the offer, and they're going to make a decision case by case basis, offer by offer basis is what they want to do.
And on that phone call, you could say like, hey, yeah, it's going to somewhere between 0 and 2%. Like it's somewhere in that ballpark.
If you're motivated by commission, I would come in at full asking or higher.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah. And there's truth. That's why I say at least fair market value. Like if you're coming in low, don't expect that you're going to get a good response from the seller. But now I'm leaving it up to the seller. What I've decided after all of this, let the seller decide how much they want to pay the buyer's agent.
You always did that, though.
No.
Didn't you always do that?
You kind of did.
Because you had to ask them to what they were going to put in there.
You pre-negotiated it, and you didn't have to negotiate for the other
well,
side.
Let me raise my hand on that and take that back. There are a lot of agents out there, that would say, hey, Mike, I want 6% commission. Are you okay with that? And you go, yeah. Okay. And then I'd write down at the top page, 6% total commission. And then what's being offered to the buyer's side, I don't put anything on the contract.
Sure.
Then when I put it out there, because it's all my commission, the 6% that you signed, that's all my commission. And I'm deciding how much I want to give to the other people. And if I don't put it in the contract, I always did. From day one as a realtor, I always put in how much the buyer's paying and how much is the buyer's agent being paid, how much is the listing agent paid. But if you just put the 6% or 5% or whatever at the top for the gross commission, and I leave it blank, I know of a lot of agents, if you give 5, right, they'll go, okay, I'm taking 3.5 and I'm offering 1.5% to the buyer's agent. You don't know that as a seller. I did it on my own.
Right.
That's what they're trying to stop. And that kind of stuff to me is, you have a contract and it says, how much are you paying the buyer's agent? And you leave it blank. It's a contract. Now, I think you should have in there what's happening. And if they had done that originally, I think we wouldn't have had as big of a problem as we have right now.
Yeah, I think the lawsuit at the very bottom line had generally the impression that sellers had to pay commissions on both sides.
Yes.
They had to.
Yes.
And so whether that was through not saying it explicitly that it was negotiable, or kind of encouraging it to go that way in order to get on the MLS, which was the 800-pound gorilla in the room. Like that's what the lawsuit was like. You guys basically coerced sellers into thinking they had to pay commissions in order to get this thing done. That's the damage.
I always took it as seller paid the commissions. It just was negotiable.
Yeah. Yeah.
But the commissions were coming from the sell side.
Yeah. In the listing agreement, that's the way it normally is. It's like, I'm paying this gross commission and this is how much you're giving the buyer's agent, but the seller is doing it.
Yeah, it's coming from the sell side.
Well, no, actually it says, I take that back. The way the exclusive listing agreement is, you're telling the listing agent how much commission you want to pay gross, the gross commission. And then the listing agent pays the buyer's agent out of their pocket. That's how it looked like. Even though you're paying me, I'm paying Mike.
Right.
Right. So that isn't the same. That's why the contract has 3 ways: agent pays, buyer commission, seller pays buyer commission, or no buyer's commission being accepted, right? Those are your 3 pretty much things. I want to take a break real quick. And on the flip side, because we have a really good guest, Magali, who comes in all the time. She has a question about PMI, and I had a question about Lee about PMI. So we're going to talk about PMI real quick.
Okay,
on the
good.
flip side.
It's a mortgage insurance question.
Thank you. Private mortgage insurance, and that's the foundation.
And plenty of time coming up here remaining. That's 2 hours of infotainment that we offer every Saturday. We got one in the rear right now, but the rear view mirror, I should say.
Thank you, John.
Okay.
Pretty explanation.
You got one
there.
behind you?
Because
There
I
was
about
2
to look.
at the start of the day.
Okay.
They dissolve.
Wow.
Time just takes away.
Sure
I
does.
feel like it's getting worse.
It is.
Keep going.
Better. Depends on how you want to look at it.
877-927-6969. Plenty of time for your phone calls if you'd like to be involved. Questions, comments, concerns in the world of real estate. Always remember, though, if you're not comfortable on the radio, I totally get it. You can ask your questions. You can share your concerns. Find out what you might be able to do if you're looking to buy a home, sell a home, stuck with a home, you don't know what to do, anything in between. We got a team of pros. You get them all at floridatalkrealestate.com. That's floridatalkrealestate.com. Find them on Facebook and YouTube as well. But know that.com, use that.com, share floridatalkrealestate.com. You never know when you can change a life at floridatalkrealestate.com. We're back in 4 minutes. Great to have you with us every Saturday. Florida Talk Real Estate right here on Real Radio.
We'll be your friend. Follow us at Real Radio 92.1 on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Here's what's happening with the weather on Real Radio.
From the Gordon Partners Weather Center, have you or a loved one been injured through no fault of your own? Call 561-333-3333 or go to fortheinjured.com.
I'm CBS 12 meteorologist Charlotte Carl. On and off showers to be expected throughout the day today. Most of them in the morning, but we'll see that secondary thunderstorm chances in the afternoon as well. High temperatures will get into the upper 80s. That is around where we should be for this time of year, and those morning showers are keeping us a little bit cooler than what we have seen over the past few weeks in the afternoon.
This report is sponsored by Audible. Get immersed in new worlds and ideas with Audible. Explore an incredible selection of audiobooks, podcasts, and originals, all in one easy app. There's more to imagine when you listen. Sign up for a free trial at audible.com.
Hey, it's your boy Johnny C here, host of Florida Talk Real Estate. They're tops when it comes to helping people buy and sell houses. But Florida Talk Real Estate is so much more than that. For 5 years, I've watched these guys help thousands of our listeners with any real estate need. They couldn't do it without their sponsors, who are experts in their fields. Check it out. Jim DePola, powered by Keller Williams Realty. Their team specializes in helping people sell their house for top dollar, and buyers get great deals on the purchase of their home. That's what they did for me and my family, and I couldn't be happier that I hired them for my real estate transaction. Mike Rauch from the mortgage firm is one of our favorite guests on the show, and he is the mortgage guy. Whether you're looking for a refi or a mortgage to purchase a new home, Mike Rauch will get you the answers you need. The mortgage firm is licensed to do loans in Florida, Alabama, Tennessee, and Georgia, and they have local offices that cover all of South Florida. So if you're thinking about a refi or a new mortgage, go to the mortgage guy, Mike Rauch, and find out what he can do for you. The Mortgage Firm, Inc., NMLS 189233, Florida license MLD 78, equal housing lender. The law office of Paul A. Krasker has been specializing in real estate law for nearly 25 years and has the professional team you need. Upside down with your house, Paul's team can help you conduct short sales, loan modifications, even if you're behind on payments. They also help you with foreclosure defense and bankruptcy. They can even help you get a student loan modification and repair your credit to get the score you need. Paul's full-service team has helped thousands of our listeners, and they can help you too. Trident Title LLC is the largest privately owned title company in Florida. When you need a title company to complete a refi, home purchase, or sale, Trident Title has got you covered. Not only do they offer competitive pricing, Trident Title has attorneys on staff to make sure if you have bumps in the road declaring title that you can get the job done. Beware, not all title companies in Florida have attorneys on staff. Trident Title does and complies with all the new federal regulations released last year. Ross Camaronets, owner of Brightway Insurance, has been helping our listeners get great rates on homeowners insurance plans. Haven't checked your homeowners insurance policy in a while? This is a great way to help reduce your monthly mortgage payment. Ross can also help with renters and auto insurance. Ross is only a phone call away and can usually get the answers you need same day.
Call Ross today at 561-425-6228 or drop by his office at 873 Donald Ross Road in Juno Beach.
So now you know why I'm happy to be part of the Florida Talk Real Estate Show, the longest running real estate show in Florida. And all these sponsors are just a phone call or a click away. Just call 888-973-7828. That's 888-973-7828. Or go to floridatalkrealestate.com. That's floridatalkrealestate.com. And don't forget to use the most accurate search engine to find your new home or ask for a free home valuation because floridatalkrealestate.com has you covered. That's floridatalkrealestate.com.
From the Anajar and Levine Accident Attorney Studios.
Have you been in an accident? Call Anajar and Levine Accident Attorneys at 1-800-747-FREE.
That's 1-800-747-3733.
Real Radio 92.1 is WZZR West Palm Beach, an iHeartRadio station.
Listen on your free iHeartRadio app for all your music, radio, and podcasts. Free never sounded so good. This is Florida Talk Real Estate with Jim DePola and Johnny C. Got a question for the show? Call us live at 1-877-927-6969.
877-927-6969. That's toll free into the studio there. An hour remaining for you. We'll pass the baton to the locker room here before you know it. Johnny C, that's me. Jimothy's here, our producer extraordinaire. Also going to stick around and show off his producing expertise with the locker room for a few hours.
About an hour and a half until we get some Florida Gators coverage starting at 12:30.
Big game. Yeah, big game with the Swamp.
Oh, that's right. We have next month. We have one of the shows being preempted for the game.
We got a couple shows coming up in the future, but for today we're good here, and next week as well.
'Tis the season. Florida has been home. Oh, excuse me. Real Radio has been home to Florida football for a long time now.
A couple years.
Yeah, a long time.
Yeah. Gosh, decade?
Yeah, I think 10 years.
Has it been that long?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. Hold on, let me blink. Oh, there goes another 10 years.
There's
another
decade.
10 years.
Yeah, it's been a wonderful pairing, and Gator fans love to be able to tune in throughout South Florida. It's a big game, and that's tough. It's a tough start.
Speaking of
Florida's not ranked, right?
They are not, but I will tell you this: as a Gator fan, the Gators traditionally win their home openers.
Are you?
Yeah, they do.
You don't really think like that, do you?
Oh yeah.
Really?
I don't go into many Gator games thinking they're going to lose. Now in a handful of years, there's been some realistic.
But you're
moments.
a trend like the they've got a winning streak on home openers.
They don't lose home openers very often. Yeah, this is a tough home opener though, but big game. And again, pregame starts at 12:30
today, and got a 3:30 kickoff. What a brutal schedule though this year for Florida.
The toughest in the nation.
If you go by previous records of the other teams,
the toughest schedule in the nation. Yeah, it's a rough one,
no doubt.
But if they run that gauntlet well, watch out.
Sure, yeah.
Watch out. I love football. Makes me so happy.
What was the last year you played, Johnny? Was the senior year? I'm assuming that you played football.
I actually played a year of what do you call semi-pro ball.
Did you?
Yeah.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
I use air quotes when I put that up because it's funny. You just pay a little bit and you're in. You're in. Yeah. Now how much you play is going to depend on how good you are.
But you played all 4 years in high school?
Wait, you paid them to play? They don't pay you?
No, yeah, you pay them.
It's like semi-amateur, I think.
Did you play all 4 years in high school? Because I know you moved around a little bit, right?
I did, yeah. I had a bum knee a couple of years, so I didn't play all games of all 4 years, but I did play all 4 years. And yes, unfortunately, I played a lot of soccer, and I had to give up soccer to play football.
I love soccer. I used to be great at soccer.
Love it.
And then I used to be a good fullback. I was more the fullback kind of
defensive.
Guy. Yeah, but
I still play soccer.
Do you still play soccer?
I do. I'm a goalie.
Do you? You play in the league or
I'm
something?
like terrible. I never played. I played as a very young youth, but I never like really
outdoor,
played.
indoor.
Outdoor.
Okay, nice.
Small
Indoor soccer,
field.
Indoor
one of
soccer
my
is tough.
one of my regrets.
I played goalie for a long time.
One of my regrets in my life was never putting on pads. I never put on like full pads to play football ever. Not one.
It's never
time.
too late, Jimmy.
No, not having it now. But yeah, I always thought. I wonder what would have happened. I don't think I would have been very good.
Here's what would have happened. You'd have got a bunch of concussions, and you'd have played through them because that's what we did, right?
Mhm. Yep.
And you'd have CTE like me.
Nice.
Yeah. Or you could be like me. I picked wrestling, and then guy bites me and breaks his tooth off of my elbow.
Nice. What are you wrestling, Tyson?
It was in regional tournament too to get to states. It was a big deal.
With your soccer background, you might have been a good kicker.
When I was when I was playing soccer, the wrestling coach, because I also wrestled in 8th grade, so the wrestling coach in my high school saw me during regular gym that I was a good wrestler, but soccer and wrestling are at the same season, so you can't do both. So I picked soccer, and then the coach told the wrestling kids to beat me up in the locker room because I had PE the last class of the day.
Haze you a little bit.
No, they beat me up and then carried me upstairs naked basically in a towel to sign up for wrestling. Like, you're signing up for wrestling.
Nice.
And that's how I ended up becoming a wrestler for 4 years.
Naked. Why did you have to be naked?
Because I was in the shower when they came. They put soap in my eyes.
They were
because they were fighting me.
That's soap in the eye.
They put soap in my eyes and then dragged me upstairs to sign up.
This goes back to what we were talking about earlier with Seinfeld. Like, you could never get away with that these days. No, it's gonna
yeah. So I think that's a little politically incorrect.
They rub soap in your eyes, pull you out of the shower.
At least it was his eyes.
They're like, grab him. Oh, bring a towel.
Yeah.
Bring a towel. Let's cover him up a little.
I was okay, but I wasn't that good. They shouldn't have done it. I wasn't that good. I was
Wait,
okay.
but you joined the wrestling team.
I made districts and regions and
That's
stuff.
awesome.
Yeah, I did.
What was your weight class?
114, 121, 128.
Man,
and I was same height I am now.
I wanted to wrestle so bad.
Or pounds?
Yeah, pounds.
I wanted to wrestle so bad. I didn't make it. That was football practice was rough. We used to do like legit double days. I don't know if they do that much anymore. Where we'd fill garbage cans with ice and do, cold tubs in between your double days to recover so you can actually go practice. Like, that was a thing in high school.
Wow, that's pretty cool that you guys have
But you had to go do it again. You had to practice again in a few hours. It was rough. And I mean, you would just vomit, and it was just rough. I mean, a rough month of double days, three weeks probably. Wrestling, I made it 2 weeks of practice and quit. Like, I was a quitter.
Too much.
I don't quit on much. That was the hardest practice I've ever done in my life.
I feel you, Johnny, because you know what happened to me? I was wrestling for 4 years, and they were really, my senior year, they were really hot chicks that were in swimming.
Nice.
So I decided I was going to become a swimmer. I made it like 2 practices, 3 practices. I've never sweated in the water before when I'm swimming, because I was competing, right?
Yeah.
I couldn't take it. And I just right out of wrestling season. So I was in excellent condition.
Great shape.
Swimming kicked my butt.
So I
feel you.
A lot of people used to poo-poo on it, but I would give all full props to our water polo team, girl and boys.
Oh, yeah.
I used to watch those practices. My God, were they extreme athletes. That was unbelievable.
Yeah.
I could never do that. I mean, I guess I could if
just
I put my mind to it.
Just the treading of the water. That's just that.
Just that alone.
Yeah.
Yeah, but 2 weeks of wrestling. I quit because of practice.
Me too. I quit, and I felt like such a when I quit because I'm not a quitter.
What a wuss.
Yeah. So never got the girls.
Well, let's
never got the girls. Okay,
one day, Jim,
they saw you swim, and they're like, nah, go back to wrestling.
Let me do a quick setup. Johnny C, that's me. Mike Rauch, mortgage guy from the mortgage firm. There's Jimmy D, Jim DePola with Keller Williams.
This is a real estate talk show.
Florida Home Pros team. Yeah, I don't even know what happened there. So I cater football to Jim being sexually assaulted in the shower.
So we're going to talk a little bit about mortgages. We're going to talk about mortgages and what's happening with mortgages. But before we do that, which is mostly good news, guys, so you're going to want to stay around for that and see how to use the new information that's coming in on mortgages to benefit yourself. But Magali, who's been a big fan of the show over the years, she had a couple basic questions, Mike, that I thought would be very helpful because I know Lee, one of our big fans, has asked for some of the same information. So let's start with PMI first, which is private mortgage insurance.
Okay.
Private mortgage insurance is when you don't have at least 20% equity in the house when you buy it. So they have an extra insurance policy that you have to pay for, but that insurance policy is not for you. It's for the bank to protect the bank in case you foreclose on.
But you
Did
pay
I
for
say that correctly, Mike?
Mostly, yeah.
Okay, what did I get wrong?
Yeah, so you said 20% equity. So what you mean is like you're buying a home, you're doing a conventional loan, and you don't put 20% down. So anything less than 20% down, a mortgage insurance is required. Mortgage insurance protects the lender. So it's an insurance policy that you pay for as the buyer, but it doesn't protect you. It protects me, the lender.
The lender.
Right? Because I get some coverage. So the exposure for the bank is essentially they're putting in the large portion, 95% of the value of the home. That's the money that's being lent to you. And if something goes wrong, there's a lot of exposure there. And so there's an insurance policy. And so the whole reason mortgage insurance was invented was to increase the dream of homeownership, which means low down payment.
Banks could
low
offer
down
better
payment
terms
options, right.
because they're being protected on the back end.
Now, PMI, so private mortgage insurance is with conventional loans, just mortgage insurance in general, MI, like FHA has mortgage insurance. VA kind of has a type of mortgage insurance coverage. So
I used to call it MIP, and everybody used to drive me crazy.
MIP would be a mortgage insurance premium, which is something that's paid upfront. So FHA has both. They got an upfront mortgage insurance premium, and they also have monthly MI.
So, and then let's say you buy a house and that you don't put 20% down, but you've had the house for, let's say, 4 years, 5 years. And then all of a sudden between you paying down the mortgage and the value of the house increasing, right? That now you do have what's called 20% equity in the house. What can you do at that point to save money?
Yes, I think so. The question to me is set up like, okay, so I'm paying mortgage insurance because I didn't have a big enough down payment initially. At what point will that mortgage insurance go away? And so there's several different ways of getting the mortgage insurance to cancel. So let me start by saying, if you did an FHA loan when you did your initial loan, unless you put 10% down, so you did like the normal 3.5% down, FHA mortgage insurance does not go away ever. It's for the life of the loan, the 30 years. So the only way to get rid of it on an FHA loan, and this is oftentimes the people who are considering refinances, is to get out of FHA, go into a conventional loan where there's either no MI, but that's one way of canceling, right? You pay off the loans one way or the other, right? But if you do a conventional loan, let's say your traditional low down payment, you did 5% down, your mortgage insurance is going to be there until you reach more or less that 80% loan to value, or essentially 20% equity position. So how do you get to that 80% loan to value, meaning the principal, the loan balance compared to the value of your home? Well, you could just do it naturally, meaning you pay your mortgage payment, and after somewhere between like the 8th and 9th year, if you did 5% down, you're going to get that equity position where your original, the balance on your loan as you've made a payment through the years compared to the original value when you bought the home is now 80%.
Right.
So that's a long time to wait, especially in a real estate market where the prices are increasing, right? So an inclining real estate market. So the value of your home, it's not what it was when you bought it. Now it's gone up. And every year it's going up a little bit more. So the first way, I'll call that the natural way. You've paid down your mortgage payment through the years. The second is the market value increases. And so you achieve that equity position faster than you would just by paying down your mortgage. So once 2 years have passed, maybe even after a year, but definitely after 2 years, you can call your loan servicer and say, hey, I think we have 20% equity. Our home has increased in value these last 2 years. We've paid our regular payments. Our principal balance hasn't gone down, right, from the original loan to value, but it's gone down some, and the market value's increased. So we have this value. And then your loan servicer should say something like, okay, well, we need to establish the value of your home. Maybe we do that with an appraisal. Maybe we do that with the realtor, comparative market analysis. But one way or the other, they're going to establish the value. And then if you do, in fact, have that 20% equity, you can cancel the MI there. But that's on conventional loans, right? FHA is not going to be like
that. Do you have to refi to get that?
No. So
no
refi, you don't have to refinance. So if we're talking about ways of like saving money just without doing anything at all, other than making a phone call and maybe paying for an appraisal, is, hey, talk to a real estate agent. You're going to say, hey, what do you think my home's worth? Compare that to the balance on your loan. And if you got 80% loan to current market value, make that call.
Yep, absolutely. Now, Magali had a couple other questions. She wanted to know, like, on the mortgage statement, will it show that if there's PMI or not on her mortgage statement? And if there is, will that information be in the mortgage statement?
Yeah, I would say usually the amount of your payment that's going to mortgage insurance is on your mortgage statement. So you should see that.
It's itemized. Usually,
yeah, it's broken down. That's
sometimes
what I thought.
you see they'll have like they'll show your previous payment and how that money was distributed. What portion went to principal? What portion went to interest? What portion went to mortgage insurance? What portion went to taxes? Insurance. Exactly.
Now that gets to another question that Magali had that's a little different. The home equity line of credit called HELOC.
Yes.
Okay. That's kind of like a second mortgage almost against your house. Where
it is a second mortgage.
It's actually a second mortgage.
Yep.
Okay. I didn't know line of credit if it's considered mortgage or not.
It is.
But with the HELOC, it's almost like having a credit card attached to your house for some of the equity that you have built up in the house, and that you use it. I'm assuming this is the way it was when I did it back in 20 years ago.
Yep.
You would get a certain line of credit, just like a credit card, and then what you used, you paid for. And then if you paid down on the amount that you owed, then you paid less. If
you paid interest on the balance.
And if you have no balance and you just have it sitting there, you don't pay anything.
And there's only a certain window you can borrow against it, right?
Usually the draw period is some number of years. So from the time you take the loan through, say 5 years, you can use it as a credit card, essentially, like what Jim was describing.
So what she wanted to know is, do you have to wait for the term to pay off the balance on the HELOC? And the short answer to that is no, right?
Yeah, you could pay it down to zero.
And then could you cancel it after that?
If you wanted to, sure.
I know, but I understand why you're saying if you wanted to.
Yeah.
Why would you? Because it's just sitting there and it's not doing anything. It's not affecting
It's a nice little like backup.
Yeah, a little nest egg.
If you gotta whatever, go to Vegas or something. Like it's there. It's there for you.
Okay, Mr. Zilla. I mean, Mr. What was that guy's name from Countrywide? Oh, what the guy? I want to say it's Mozilla or something.
I think you're really close.
It's
man.
so close. Yeah. But yeah, the guy from Countrywide. Just take your mortgage equity.
Buy a boat.
Buy a boat. Go on vacation.
Listen,
do
you can buy a boat and your loan term is something like 15 years at 8%. And you got a HELOC that has a 20-year repayment phase and your rate's 7.5%. Like I could kind of see it. Like you get that boat and your monthly payments less. Right?
Hope you don't need a roof anytime soon.
And of course, your home's always going to appreciate in value, so it doesn't matter. But I think as it relates to MI, if she was talking about like the HELOC as it relates to mortgage insurance, I would say if you're getting a home equity product, you usually have to have some significant equity to be able to do that. And some, depending on the who you're getting the home equity product, they might only limit you to what's called a combined loan to value of 80% to start with. Right. So you can't even get the home equity product unless you've already achieved greater than that 20% equity position. Right. Like maybe you have 50% equity, meaning you owe half of what your home is worth. Well, then you got a good, healthy, availability of a credit line or some sort of home equity that you can tap into. But you can't go to like 100% combined loan to value, meaning you have to have already achieved something greater than 20% usually in order to even have a home equity
to
product
even have a home line of credit.
Now, if your initial loan was FHA, you could conceivably have done that, and you're still going to have MI because it's an FHA loan. But if you're one of those FHA, 3-point-something%, don't worry about the mortgage insurance.
Yeah, because even combined, you're still doing good.
Your mortgage insurance, if you're at 3% on your FHA loan, your mortgage insurance is 0.55%. I know that. Okay, that's what it is, right? It's what it's been when the rates were in that zone. So you're essentially paying 3.55%, right? If your refi rate is 6.5,
don't do it.
Don't do it. Don't worry about
the PMI.
Yeah, find something else to worry
about. Yeah,
exactly. Exactly.
Let's get into Hope Magali. I hope you found that interesting and useful. And please like our page if you like the information we gave you.
FloridaTalkRealEstate.com. Share that as well. FloridaTalkRealEstate.com, your one-stop real estate shop.
Thank you, Johnny. Interest rates, and I know Johnny really wants to know about this because he's going to be a future buyer in the future.
In the
whatever
future.
That means, right?
In the year
so,
2000.
But you can do nothing now. So he's always going to be a future.
Oh yeah, that's right. You're always a future.
There is
buyer,
no
right?
now, really, right? Like
so.
No.
interest rates are looking pretty reasonable compared to what we've had for the last, about 14 months, 15 months. We're at April 2023 right now is where we are on interest rates, 6.35% on Freddie Mac for 30-year mortgages. Listen to this, 5.51% on 15-year. We're down in the fives, so like mid fives for 15-year loan. So what I'm wondering, Mike, if somebody's got 6.5% on 30, right? And let's say they have a decent amount of equity, do you think it's worth going from a 30-year to 15-year? Or not necessarily just keep it, don't pay the costs and make the difference in your payments?
So remember I always talk about what's your motivation for the refinance. So that one the motivation is I want to pay off this loan as quickly as possible and pay the least amount of interest over the remaining life of whatever I'm paying, right? That's why you would consider getting into a 15-year with a lower interest rate, because you want the lowest interest rate possible. And then by paying it off in 15 years, you're going to save a lot of money versus, the remaining 28 years or 26 years of your current loan. But that is going to be the opposite of what is oftentimes the other goal stated, which is, hey, my budget is tight. I need my payments to be as low as possible. That's why I want the low interest rate. I want to reduce my payment. Those two things are at opposite ends. If you switch to a 15-year, you're going to be increasing your payment.
Right.
You're increasing your payment, and the end result is you pay off your loan as quickly as possible. So
that's really important for people to understand. It's funny. I was talking to another mortgage or loan officer or mortgage broker.
Yeah.
And they were saying that what we used to say on the show before you came, Mike, we used to say that if you could do a 1% drop on your mortgage payment.
Yep.
That usually is like the safe zone to go ahead and do the refi.
Interesting.
Now you have to do you're saying the same thing. It's kind of interesting to This is why I want to talk about it, because most people, if they think they can get a 1-point drop on their mortgage, that it might be worth it. But the other mortgage person was saying that they didn't necessarily agree with that. Now we use a formula on how to determine it. So we determine how much it's going to cost to get that refi. And then you divide that by the amount of monthly savings you're getting.
Yep.
And if you're at 3 years or under, 2 years or under is optimal. But 3 years or under, it's probably a safe bet to go ahead and do that unless you're leaving in 3 years for sure.
And so that's a simple break-even calculation, and that one would apply if your goal is to reduce your monthly payment.
Okay.
Right? So that's when that simple break-even makes the most sense, which is, hey, listen, it's going to cost you money to do the refi, but your goal is to reduce your monthly payment as much as possible. So here's what it takes. It's, it costs this, your payment's going down $100 a month. That's what you're after. But just know, don't refinance again within this, 3 years or 2 years, and don't sell the home either, right? Because you never made your money back.
So why do you think that the 1% interest rate drop isn't necessarily a safe bet to say that's probably going to work for me? What? Because when you said interesting, that I'm interested in what
just
you
because
said.
I'm thinking, hey, I have to do the strict financial analysis would be, okay, yes, you're reducing your interest rate by 1%, but it costs you money to do that, and you're re-extending to, say, a new 30-year term. So do you end up paying more or less interest over the remaining life of your remaining life of your existing loan versus this new scenario, which is a bigger loan amount because you rolled in those costs, right? You've increased your principal balance and you've re-extended your term. So yes, the interest rate is lower, but you increased what you're borrowing and you re-extended the term. Are you actually saving money over the long term? But for most people, that's not the analysis, right? If that were the analysis and you could afford it, you go to the lowest interest rate with the shortest term possible, the 15-year at 5.5, right? So obviously the bigger the interest rate gap, the better. So if you're sitting at 6.75, well, it'd be great if the rates got down to 4.75, right? And your goal was to kind of, make a financially sound decision and lower your monthly payment. It's hard to get both of those things. So the bigger the gap in the interest rate, the more, the easier it is to achieve both the long-term savings and the short-term savings.
It's really important if you're listening to this right now and you're thinking about doing refis or talking about mortgages in general, you got to call us and we're going to get you to Mike. Okay. Mike is honest as the day is long. He's always going to do what's right for the customer, not what's right for him. You don't know how many mortgage companies will just do mortgage churning and just go, oh, you're going to save a half a point. Let me go refi the process for you. Don't do that. Call up us and we're going to get you to Mike Rauch from the mortgage firm so you can get real information, trustworthy information, so that you could do the right thing for you and your family. So make sure you do that, please.
And you also need to be thinking about equity position as well. If you're, if you started, 2 years ago, or even in this last year, and you put a 5% down payment, you haven't made a lot of ground up on your equity. Like home values have not increased that much, right? And so they may have gone up, but is there enough room to roll in these costs and still be you're not going to be canceling MI. You're going to have a refinance still with mortgage insurance. And so it's, all these things need to be looked at. And the big shiny object, the marketing point is, hey, look at rates. There's going to be, I heard a lot of people in my company and the industry saying, but like a refi, bonanza is about to happen. I'm thinking like, I don't know. We haven't written that many loans with rates above where they currently are, maybe even above where they're going to be towards the end of this year. We haven't done a ton of those loans. And the ones that we did, how many of those are in an equity position where a refinance makes sense? So, I don't see this big thing. I'm sure I'm going to get calls about it because people are interested. They're like, oh,
that's why I'm asking them to call you, though, to get the right
information.
information, to do the right thing and not do what you think is the right thing and then find out that it wasn't the right thing in the long run.
And when you're getting bombarded with like, call us, look at rates, refi, save the money, do this, whatever it is.
And
when
the
you're getting bombarded
postcards
with
and
that,
the mailers and everything else.
It's hard to find a source where when you make that call, they're not just like, hey, give me a name, social, birthday. Like I'll take all that information at some point, but we're going to have a good discussion. Before we get to that level, just say, hey, does it even make sense or not? Can you do it? Does it make sense?
What's your end game here?
What's your goal?
What are you trying to do?
What's the goal? What do you want to achieve?
Yeah.
A lower monthly payment or a lower overall pay
the least amount of interest over the life of the loan.
Yeah, and if you give Mike that information and then you let him break the numbers down with you, you're going to have a lot of info, an understanding of your positioning, and then your options, your better options, your not so great options. But at the end of the day, if you're like, Mike, thanks for the info, I really want you to do this for me, you're going to be like, okay, well, here we go. Let's go.
Yeah.
I wouldn't do it, but let's go.
It's I try not to tell people I wouldn't do it, but
I don't think those words ever
there are certain things that I tell people, no, you should not do that. Especially when we're talking about cash out refinances and things like, rolling in, I owe $12,000 on my car, but I want that $350 payment to go away. All right. Well, if your goal is really just to reduce your monthly payments, that's something we could consider. But you got, 18 months left on your car payment. You're about to stretch that into a new 30-year loan.
30-year payment.
Are you sure you want to do that?
Right.
Like if you walked into the car dealership and were like, hey, I want to buy this car, I want to finance this car. They're like, okay, you want the 4-year, 5-year, 6-year, or the 30-year payment? Well, if low payment is your goal, I'll take the 30.
Give me the 30.
Right. But if I'm going to pay, $250,000 for this $40,000 car, that maybe not so attractive.
Maybe not so. Yeah. All the information matters. FloridaTalkRealEstate.com. There's some really meaningful information. That's your one-stop real estate shop. A team of pros. You get them all at FloridaTalkRealEstate.com. Know it, use it, love it, share it. FloridaTalkRealEstate.com.
Thank you, Johnny. You're the best. With the interest rates, I'm looking at the chart. I wish people on the radio could actually see the chart because it's pretty amazing to watch this Freddie Mac chart of what's been happening. So I can't believe that we're down. We were at 722. That was the peak for this year at 722 in May. So we went from 722 to 6.35. And
with the Fed doing nothing.
I'm sorry?
With the Fed doing nothing.
With the Fed doing nothing, exactly. Because the banks are always trying to predict what's going to happen in the future and if it's going to be a strong economy or not. And right now, or it's a good market for mortgages or not. And we've already had a drop of nearly 1 point from May. And then the high for like the last 8 years was 7.79 in November of last year. So we're down 1.35, actually 1.39% from November, which is pretty healthy drop.
Yeah.
And now we're seeing a pretty nice drop right now. The biggest drop, the the fastest drop we had was from November to December because we went from 779 to 661 in like 6 weeks, right?
And so the end, like mid to late last year, they being the banks must have really thought the Fed was going to continue to raise rates because they were cooking that in, huh, Mike?
I think it was it was unknown when the Fed was going to stop.
Yep.
Yeah, man, they were fearing it a little bit. They were still cooking that in. They were adding all kinds of spices in the gumbo.
I remember like when we talk about the consumer sentiment, leading into the holidays, it was like, like the news became, hey, Fed's going to drop rates. Remember, there was some talk about, hey, Fed's going to come into November. Crazy. They froze the whole housing market. They're going to drop rates here. And then there was some little bit of market optimism leading into the holiday season. And then Fed came out and was like, oh, no, we're just kidding. We're holding. We're holding. But
so what we're seeing is a slow, gradual slide down right now. There's been some bumps in the road where we go up a little bit or stay flat, but we've been trending down now since May. We've been trending down. And
I guess since last November, really, truly, huh?
Well, the reason why I'm not saying that, but it's true from last November, is that when we got down to 661, we started climbing up to 722.
Okay.
Right.
So it wasn't always a continual trend.
Right. Yeah. So we're just seeing this wave. Just like I said, we were going to see the interest rates go up and down as we went through. And it's exactly what we've been predicting.
Yeah.
But now we're at now what we're wondering is in about 3 weeks, I guess, or 2 weeks, the 18th. So September 18th, that's 17th and 18th when the Fed's meeting. And everybody's expecting a drop because Jerome Powell said the time has come. So,
and look at this, Jim, just so leading up, the biggest like 1 week drop we've had recently was August 1st
let me guess.
To the 8th.
Let me guess.
So August 1st.
0.23.
August 1st, it was 6.73, and then it was 6.47. So 7.3 to 4.7.
7.3.
So that's 13, 16.16, right? 0.26.
26.
Quarter of a point.
Quarter point.
So basically a quarter point, and that was the first week of August. Now, it was the first week of August when people were sure what the Fed was doing. I wasn't sure until last week. And I'm still not sure, but I think there's a drop.
Yeah, you and Johnny are still on the page that you don't think it's going to be a drop.
I don't think they should, but I can see Johnny's, like, if they do, tells me what's up.
Yeah.
Right? Gives you a big signal.
Yep.
Right? Because it doesn't make sense to reverse course other than my analogy from last week, which was you only hold the oven temperature high until you achieve your desired target point, and then you lower the temperature of the oven to hold it. Right. Or you take it out of the oven to hold. Right.
Which was a pretty good analogy.
It could be.
Yeah.
I'm changing my mind on something, guys. So at the beginning of the show,
of a point.
At the beginning of the show, I really thought it was going to be maybe a half point. I think it's on the table. I thought it was on the table, but with looking at this chart right now on Freddie Mac, everything's been happening organically, dropping organically.
Oh,
I think some of it's baked in. And what does that mean? So let's just explain what baked in means. Who were the people that
they?
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to stop is the they, and like be a little more specific. Specific.
They are doing this.
But the thing is, what we're seeing right now is that organically, this has been dropping by itself without the Fed intervening. But Wall Street has been like a big pain in the butt through this whole process for the last 2 years because they keep begging the Fed to drop rates and scaring people that they need to drop the rates.
And if they don't,
all the world is going to come crashing down. Now, I'm talking about Wall Street right now, and Wall Street has a reason for doing that because all they care about is the stock market and how is the stock market doing. That's all they care about.
How
and the
high
stock
is it,
market,
or do they care about movement in the market?
Well, movement, movement, because that's how they make their money. But the bottom line is that Wall Street is not Main Street. And that's not the economy.
It does converge, though. So many people, so few are invested in the stock market. So few, but so many put so much focus and emphasis on it. It's like, I don't know why you care. You have $0
it's
invested.
One of the
why
few.
do you care?
It's one of the few things that a regular consumer, or a regular person, could look at every day. Like you could look at any news show and say this. What's happening with the Dow and S&P?
Yeah,
you don't have that with any other kind of economic metric, right? That one's out there every single day for everybody to see. all the rest of the stuff. Who goes to Freddie Mac and look up these charts, right? Nobody's doing that, right? So, and you're not seeing this on news every day, right? Hey, what's the rate today? What's the rate today? You're not seeing that.
No, but they'll tell you the number for the Dow and the
but
S&P.
they'll tell you the Dow, right? So the thing is I don't listen to Wall Street anymore because they're just out for themselves. They don't care if it's good for the economy, bad for the economy. All they care about is themselves. That's okay. That's their job. They want to be that way, be that way.
Another little jewel from last week's show, trying to pick out these nuggets, is we talked about how much the mortgage rates moved over the past, year and a half, while the Fed rate held the exact same number, right? Where we talk about so what the Fed does doesn't necessarily mean the mortgages are going to do the same thing. We're going to long-term move along with what the Fed's doing. But there has been from, what did we say? There was almost 1.5 points of movement in mortgage rates while the Fed held steady without increasing or decreasing over that time period.
So I think that they're going to do at least a 1/4 point drop. I'm changing my mind on the half. Looking at this chart, I don't think they have to. I think they could do a 1/4, and let's just see what happens. I know that's throwing spaghetti against the wall, but that's my opinion.
But looking at the chart, they just leave it alone, right? I mean, truly.
It's possible. It's possible they could leave it alone. It's just going to correct itself. If they do drop the 1/4 point, we were talking about baked in, and that's the point I want to make, is the regular people have to understand this. Some of that interest rate drop that the Fed is going to do is already baked into the rate drops that we already had. Okay, so they're already baking that in. So when we do get the announcement that there's going to be a drop, it is going to be a direct correlation that it's going to definitely affect the mortgage rate at all. It actually could go up if the rates go down. We've actually seen that once or twice since 2018, where they raised the rates and the mortgage, or they dropped the
rates. Like next day or that week, the mortgage rates do the opposite.
Right, went up, because that isn't the only thing they care about. They don't care. Actually, they care more about the T-bill.
You could see the Fed dropping the rate as a indicator of some level of instability in the market. So they're saying, hey, we need to do some sort of easing here because our economy needs it. And therefore, mortgages, because they're traditionally a guaranteed return, mortgages could actually go up because that investment becomes more solid, right? Like the mortgage-backed security paying a higher yield, because guess what? We see some Feds telling us something's going wrong in the economy. They're scared. They're dropping the rate. Now mortgages become more attractive, and you can see those mortgage rates go up, right? Because basically in the mortgage-backed security world, demand
can raise the rates.
Increase
it's going to raise the rates.
Yeah,
that's right.
Exactly.
So that's a really good point, Mike. And we experienced that, I think, in not COVID, but in other markets we've experienced it, where the rates started going up because of the activity of the people applying for mortgages.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Because if you have more people, you only have a finite amount of money, so you're going to charge more money.
There just wasn't enough money to fund all these loans that were being applied for.
So that's what bothers me about the buyers. What I'm concerned about right now, today, in today's market, is the buyers of today not understanding all this and not playing it right, because a lot of buyers I talk to don't have a clear understanding of how all this works.
A clue? Clear?
No, I don't. A clear understanding.
Yeah, CL and then U, and
not
understanding.
I'm not saying they're clueless.
No, okay.
But they don't know. They don't understand everything.
Yeah.
And there's not every. I mean, it's my job to understand this. Your job to understand as much as we can. Regular people, they got stuff to do, right?
Yeah.
They got lives to live.
And here's the thing: if you're not getting it from our shows, guys, we don't really even clearly we can't enough to predict it, right?
Yeah.
Like we are in this as much as anybody's in this. And you can't predict what's going to happen.
Yeah.
Right.
I would have never thought we got to 779 last year.
Yeah.
I was like, my mouth was dropping every time we were talking about it at that point.
Yeah.
So we probably will see the rates for a little while, maybe continue to drop a little bit. How much, it's anybody's game. But right now we're at April 2023 for the interest rates. And just out of curiosity, I'm going to go back and look. Last time besides April.
Maybe it's a good time to just reiterate the point that we make a lot, which is, like, if you're other than if you just have a passing interest in this stuff and you just like to be knowledgeable about it, if you're an active shopper or you're potentially an active buyer or seller, even, like, this kind of what's happening with rates is directly impacting the market, right? Whether because it's, buyer market, seller market, like the rates are kind of impacting that. And so if you're in there as an actual buyer or not, you need to be ready. You can't do I'm waiting for the market to do I'm waiting for rates to, you have to say, I'm waiting for these particular stars to align, and then I'm able to buy a home, or I should sell a home. So you have to kind of, if you're a buyer, again, get pre-approved, have access to be able to calculate numbers, have your finger kind of on the pulse of rates, and then how that's affecting your payment on a home in a specific neighborhood or homes that match your criteria. Like, you have to be able to say, hey, wait a second, this is all converging now to the point where it works, or no, we're still out. We're still out of where we need to be. We're still out of our strike zone. But if pitches start coming in, guess what? You won't be able to take a swing at them.
My attitude about it is, if you could afford to do it and you can get the house that fits your lifestyle, do it now. Because if you're waiting for the interest rates to drop more, and we keep saying this, and I know it's beating a dead horse, but there's new people that listen to us every day. If you're waiting for the interest rates to drop, there's a million other people doing the same thing. So when the interest rates drop to a certain point, you're going to have the buffalo herd come in, just like during COVID. And it's going to be you're going to be competing and fighting off all these other people that are going to be offering these crazy offers. If
so
it comes
shifts into the seller's market, where now the commission conversation starts all over again.
Yeah. And then you're going to even have bigger problems, because the sellers might not need you represented with the buyer's agent. Right? They might just say, hey, I'm not paying a commission. I'm going to go get somebody that doesn't need to have a buyer's agent, and I'll just work with them, and my seller doesn't have to pay.
It's why you have to have a conversation with somebody like Mike Rauch, the mortgage guy from the mortgage firm. It shouldn't be about what the interest rate is. It should be what you can afford, what you're comfortable with. Again, the best time to buy or sell is when it's best for your family.
Yeah.
I've just had this conversation in the last week with Mike. We're getting the app started. We're getting an understanding of what my comfortable zone is, and my comfortable zone and my reality zone are pretty close.
That's good news.
It is good news when it's where we want it to be, but the interest rate is it matters. Of course it matters. And if I say it didn't matter, that'd be this stupid statement, but it is not the most important variable here. It's what I can afford. And again, we've talked about this, a bunch of Saturdays. I think my biggest hurdle is probably going to be insurance.
Yeah.
I mean, reality is, if you're looking at it, it's debt to income matters. It all matters. But when it comes, I think when the rubber meets the road, I think the insurance is going to probably be my biggest hurdle. But the understanding of what I can afford a month matters. Yes, the interest rate affects that, but that's not going to be my decider. Mike's got the app. You slide all your numbers around, what you can afford. It's fun to use. It's like, no, can't afford this house. Not that number. You're in the zone.
Yeah.
And when you slide that little toggles, it highlights like, boom, you can do that. You can't do that. You can't. And it's
even great. Like, you could have your eye on a specific home and say, hey, listen, I can't buy this home.
Sure.
I cannot buy this home until
it hits
at this
point.
price.
And the way you know
or this rates, or this price and this rate.
Yep. But there's things you can do to work through that. But but again, it's what I can afford. That interest rate, it affects what I can afford, but it is not going to be my decider. My decider is I can't afford that, right? So don't get lost in the rate. Talk to somebody.
Exactly.
Find out what you can afford.
Mm-hmm.
You know what you pay right now a month.
Exactly.
You know what you can afford.
Oh, yeah. And I'll even use the word, so afford is usually, I say that's your world. My world is, what do you qualify for?
Qualifies a different beast.
Hopefully those two things align, but you got to know the answer to both of those.
Yes.
Like, you got to know, what can you qualify for? Like, what are the limits under which your loan will get approved?
Right.
That's what I do, and I'm pretty good at it. And then that will help inform you what you can afford, which is also informed by your budget right now. What are you paying right now? Are you able to save money? Do you have any bills that are changing in the near future, getting better, getting worse? You can kind of think about these things.
Because you kind of know your monthly obligation.
Most
You
people
do it
do.
every month. You
Most
do. You know,
people do.
you pay your car, your phone, your insurance, your internet. That stuff.
Yeah, you know what's going on.
You know what you pay.
But here's the interesting part. You'd be very surprised at how many realtors or real estate agents work with the buyer. They call up the mortgage person. How much can the person afford? Don't go over $550. Okay. Now they're running around showing 550 houses. The buyer's like, well, it's in my price range, right? So they're going to look.
550 single family, 550 townhome.
Well, no, and then what happens is they find out what the mortgage payment is after they went into contract. And then they go, I can't afford that. Now they can qualify for it as a mortgage, but they can't afford it, right?
Yeah.
So that's what you don't want to do. So you need to have an agent that's going to sit down and have a talk with you, because what you can qualify for and what you can afford are usually two different things for people.
Yeah, if you're pressing your limits all the way to like every penny you make is going to your monthly obligation, guess what happens if anything changes to the wrong side? You can't afford that anymore.
Yeah,
that's a tough decision.
I would just caution, if you are a buyer out there with what I'll call a generic pre-approval letter that tells you nothing about payment, it's just basically here, you're good for 550, and you got that, whatever you had to go through to get that. If you're walking around with that, and your agent is taking you around with that, the potential for things to go wrong are very high, right? Just because you just don't know. You just don't. And remember, the goal is to not close. The goal isn't to get a pre-approval letter. The goal is not to do house shopping and find the perfect house and make an offer and negotiate a contract and get a contract signed. That's not the goal. That's part of the process, but that's not the goal. The goal is to get across the finish line and buy your home, right? And so you have to be able to get to that. You just have to know if it's even achievable.
That's right.
So
we only have a couple minutes left, and I wanted to go over two questions that popped up this week for me that I wanted to let people know. Number one, I got a call from an irate person who was pretty irate because they were very upset that their escrow increased on their mortgage.
I get a lot of calls about escrow this time of year.
And
they're calling you and get mad at you.
No, they're not mad at me. They're just mad at the world.
Okay.
How did my payment? Not mad at me. They're calling. Yeah, they're calling me because they're trying to get the money.
Chewing you out. I'm like, what did you do to that?
No, they're just upset. And the thing is what they wanted. The question I was asked very directly was, are lenders allowed to increase your escrow payment without your permission? And I was like, I think so.
Yes.
And the short answer is yes. Right.
There is
Absolutely.
no permission required.
Right. Explain why escrow payment. Briefly, explain why escrow payments would go up.
And when you're lumping that in, also like there's parameters of how much they can keep in escrow, right? Isn't there? There's parameter for how much padding or cushion they can have. So they have to calculate what do we think we're going to be paying, right?
And then we can do X percent above that number,
but they can't.
Right? But they still have to calculate,
right?
I think the simple explanation for escrows is, Johnny, let's say that you had, I'm going to use easy numbers. A year from now, you're going to have a $1,200 bill due.
Okay.
I want you to save $100 a month.
Okay.
Okay. That's escrows. I'm going to force you to save $100 a month so that when this bill comes up, this anticipated bill, we got $1,200.
And I'll pay it for you.
And I'm going to take your money that I forced you to save. So you've given me $100. I got $1,200. I'm going to cut that check. Okay, that's how escrows work.
So that's added into your mortgage payment. So if your mortgage is $1,500 and it's $1,600, $100 of that is going into escrow.
Right. But just think about it like if you had your own savings account, a special savings account, special purpose, and I said put $100, then you got $1,200 when the time comes. Now, here's what happens when the bill, because we don't know it's going to be $1,200, we're just anticipating it's going to be in and around $1,200. When the bill comes out, if it's $2,400, we number one, didn't save enough. So I need to collect $1,200 from you. And number two, our new anticipated bill for next year's savings is going to be $2,400. So instead of saving $100 a month, I need you to save $200. And if you don't have that $1,200, that extra $1,200 handy, that's fine. We're just going to roll it into your new payment. So now instead of going for we need $200 a month because now $2,400 is our new target. But you were also short.
Right.
So I need to collect for the next year another $100. Right. So you're going to go from $100 a month
$300
to $300 a month.
Just like that.
That's what happens.
And then if you have a tax increase with an insurance increase, because that's what you're paying escrow for is taxes and insurance. So if you have the double whammy and your taxes go up,
like my
and
German
your
teacher used to say, that's a Doppelkommapel.
Doppelkommapel?
Doppelkommapel.
So, and we've seen people call us up and say, my mortgage payment went up $700 a month, $800 a month, right? It's like, this is crazy town.
From insurance, taxes,
both. Usually, a lot of times both.
Or how about the one where you've done you did a pace lien, right? Like you did
pace loan,
windows, doors, roof, got all that. It's rolled into your tax bill. Your property tax bill went from $5,000 a year to $10,000 a year. Oh, yeah. What? Yeah, you did. Remember, you agreed to this and you signed everything. Well, guess how you pay your property tax bill? You pay it through your mortgage escrow. So guess what? Not only were we short now $5,000, so we got to make up that $600 a month, right, or whatever, $500 a month.
But we're anticipating it for next year.
You got to. You don't have the $5,000 to pay me, so we got to make that up too. And we're going to spread it out over the next year, or then you might be able to call and say, we'll spread it out over like the next 5 years. Geez. So I think the goal with escrows is to, at some point, you will arrive and achieve a relatively stable tax bill and hopefully insurance,
especially if you're homestead.
Right? If you can't control the tax bill a lot, it is what it is, but you can make sure you're getting the most amount of discounts by applying the homestead, using portability if you had access to it. If you really want to get into like lowering your tax bill, you vote, right? You participate in your local meetings about that stuff, right? Like you maybe become one of the politicians, right? If you're related to that. Otherwise, you just take your homestead and you can't control it, right? The insurance, you have to kind of actively monitor. If you do nothing, it's just going to go up. That's the way insurance works.
And we got Ross
so you talk to Ross every single year and you say, hey, I need my insurance to stay the same or even go down would be great. Can we make that happen? And that way your escrows don't go crazy.
And there has been some good news because of the property values that got up so high. A lot of the cities have either kept their tax rate flat in the county or have actually reduced the tax rate for people. So we're seeing a little easing on the escrow for that. Insurance is the big problem right now, it seems like, for everybody.
Right.
I know.
And when it comes to escrow too, you can what do they call that? Where you can call your mortgage company up and do an evaluation on it. What do they call that?
Escrow analysis.
Analysis. Thank you. That's the word I was looking for.
You can do that anytime. Let's say that they've they're over collecting for whatever reason. And you say, wait a second, my bill's this, my property tax bill is this. You guys are doing way too much. Let's reanalyze this and hopefully get a lower payment.
And they'll do that. They'll break it down and it may adjust for you.
Maybe.
Now, you mentioned in the very beginning of this conversation that there's only so much over that you can be. What happens at the end of the year if by chance, all right, especially in the beginning, like we're sort of anticipating this on ours,
you've got too much
where there's too much in there, do you automatically get a check back? Can you leave that in there for the next year?
They will do the loan servicer once a year must do the escrow analysis. And based on that analysis, they're going to say, here's the numbers we've crunched. Here's what we anticipate. You're going to cut 2 checks in this upcoming year. We need this much and this much. Here's how much we are currently collecting. Here's how much is in and if they're over by too much, they will cut you that check. And then you could take that check and do what you want with it. Now, if sometimes like you're in that first year and your property tax bill is still reflecting the old owner's situation, new construction's a great great scenario where like, wait, we over collected escrow. Now we've got too much. That checks, and then come next November, the bill it goes up at that point.
You got to be careful.
And you're short again, so you got to be careful.
Can you leave that money in that escrow?
No, they're going to cut you a check, Jimmy. So I would say you need to, because they can't hold that much. They're not allowed to.
Okay, you mentioned something about that, and that's where I wanted.
I would take it and I would put it into like a safe investment, something like the Hard Rock app or something like that.
Yeah,
you know.
Well, I just happen to have that app, so we're good.
Maybe Fresno State plus 21.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, or the under with A&M and Notre Dame. I don't know.
Good to know.
I'm sure Greek has a
What's
play
the
for
bet
you.
for today? What's the play for today on Florida U?
That's gonna be a close game. That line's like 2.5 or 3. I think the winner probably wins by 1 to 3. I would go Gators because they're at home.
Or the under.
I don't have a feel for the total on that. If you like a total today, I like Notre Dame and A&M under.
Okay,
under.
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah. And again, I like Fresno State. But I would ask Greek.
Plus 21.
Greek's the man. Yeah. Greek had Georgia Tech last week.
Wow.
And was walking around with swagger like he knew the outcome already.
He did if he bet it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
He only bets winners.
Exactly. That's why I said ask Greek. You can do that too. We got the locker room coming up there in the bullpen. Joe and Greek getting ready to do a little Locker Room Live for you. Of course, pass the baton to the Gator football game. Pre-game starts at 12:30. Beautiful thing. Thank you very much for being with us every Saturday.
We will still have Teddy covers too today. He's going to call in at 12.
Sweet. Might get some winners from Teddy too.
Now there's someone you might listen to.
Might
Ears
just
could perk
maybe.
up for Teddy.
Yeah, absolutely. Mr. Covers. Pull up your covers, y'all. Thank you for being with us. Always remember FloridaTalkRealEstateIsn't.com, your one-stop real estate shop. It's a team of pros. You get them all at one place, FloridaTalkRealEstate.com. You can find us on Facebook and YouTube as well. You should. Consume. You can never get enough information. But when you need a team, buying a home, selling a home, stuck with a home, you don't know what to do, go to a team of pros. You got to go to people that are great at what they do. There's plenty that are good at what they do. There's lots that suck at what they do. If you can find a team that's great at what they do, man, champion that. FloridaTalkRealEstate.com. Like Mike Rauch, the mortgage guy from the mortgage firm. Have a great weekend, my friend. Happy Labor Day weekend.
Yeah, happy Labor Day. Thanks, everybody, and enjoy the long weekekend.
Yeah, you
hopefully.
too. Be safe.
Bro. Yep.
And everybody out there, be safe. No drinking and driving. If you're going to have gatherings, have fun. Take care of each other, but be responsible on the roads. There's so many idiots out there. Jimothy, I know you're going to stick around. Have a great holiday weekend, my friend.
And you as well.
And
Thank you,
Jimmy
John.
D, Keller Williams Innovations, Florida Home Pros team. I hope you have a phenomenal holiday weekend. Thanks for all your efforts always.
It's Labor Day. I'm working today. I'm going out and showing a property right after this. So it's good.
I did not doubt that. Even for a second.
Nope, not even a little bit.
We do got locker room coming up. I hope you're planning on sticking around. Enjoy Gator football. Go Gators! And we'll be back next Saturday, Florida Talk Real Estate, right here on Real Radio. Can I get a Go Gators? Go Gators.
Wow.
Go Gators.
They're home opener streak.
No home opener.
33-1 since 1990. 33-1 since 1990.
Pretty good.
Wow.
And I want to say it's